How good it is to see all of my friends coming in here tonight to the six screens. We are just excited. I'm very excited here as of late. More and more people are coming into the six screens telenetwork, and we're so happy for that. This is really showing me something. We're like the CIA here. The Watchtower isn't going to just volunteer the six screens or any of us apostates information. We kind of have to extract it. We have to kind of find the intelligentsia the Watchtower is putting out there. And that's what we try to do here. So what we do is we give the news, and then you guys can spin it, and we can come up with all kinds of thoughts on what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, my name is Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world. I got a little cold tonight, so I'm probably not sounding the same to you, but I'm all right. I should be able to get through the night okay. But we've got a great program coming up. Like I say, we got a few things that are going to really get you thinking tonight about some big changes coming in the Watchtower and about some big changes coming around the world concerning the Watchtower organization. So let's take a look. Let's look into our way of doing business here every night. Well, what we do is we open up the phone lines and we allow people to call in from pretty much all over the world. Let me just see if that phone number is up. Yes, it is. It's right there on YouTube and Facebook. You can see it. Just call in 727-731-6701 and join the conversation tonight. Don't be inhibited. Don't be bashful. Muster up the courage and come in, because I'll tell you what, you coming in makes all the difference in the world. It's not just me sitting here bloviating. It's listening to people calling in and telling us about their trek in the Watchtower organization. All right, so let's take a look over here and get into the news here tonight. I was happy to learn that just this week, in fact, well, actually, it was last week, so it was just last week, but it's really new, right? Victims of Jehovah's Witnesses are now seeking protection from the White House. Well, I don't know if you saw that HBO Spanish film about Jehovah's Witnesses, but in Spain, there's a real movement to really expose the Jehovah's Witnesses for who they are, a very destructive and dangerous cult. So what happened in the last couple of weeks here really is a bunch of Spanish people who formed they formed an organization called Spotlight. And they, of course, are victims of Jehovah's Witnesses. And they sent more than 5,000 letters to urge President Trump to investigate abuses within the Watchtower organization and the ostracism imposed on its former members. So that's good news. Yeah, so you think President Trump will read these? Well, evidently he has. From the information coming in here to me at the six screens, President Donald Trump has confirmed that he read their arguments. Now, I don't think he could read all 5,000 letters, but he read enough to know what's going on behind the curtain. So that made me happy. And also, several members of Congress are starting to look into the child abuse allegations, and they are taking them seriously. Now, you've heard me say here so many times on the six screens, we're all getting the apostates now. We're getting some points on the scoreboard. We not only have all of those people out there that been so loyal and doing these YouTubes and Facebook and all of these videos and all of the people writing on forums, all of us apostates have made a big difference in getting people out. But I'll tell you what's making a bigger difference is these governments. And we've been saying right along, boy, if only America would start looking in to the abuses in the Watchtower organization. And that seems to be the case. So Donald Trump, from what we do understand here, has confirmed he read some of these letters, and also Congress has been disturbed about what they're seeing in these letters. And so this operation, as I said earlier, is called Operation Spotlight. And it's three former Jehovah's Witnesses that came up with this idea. And the ball is now rolling. It's like a snowball rolling down the hill. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, the first phase of their campaign is to pressure the president of the United States to launch federal investigations into the internal policies of the religious organization. Hey, that's music to my ears. I hope it's music to your ears. Did this really, friends? I have to tell you, we should all be doing the happy dance out in the parking lot. This is big news, and this looks like it has some traction. Now, what's of concern here is the ostracism that is shown to Jehovah's Witnesses when they leave the organization. They're expelled, disfellowshipped. They are condemned. So the government's looking into that. It's about time, right? It really is about time. I mean, really, these witnesses have caused so many problems. So they're looking into that. They're also looking into the child sexual abuse. Now, this campaign, even though it's basically involved here with the United States, this campaign has a global scope and it has a bigger, broader effect to bring light to the realities of life within the Jehovah's Witness community. And what this group Spotlight evidently is working along with the HBO Max series, that HBO movie about Jehovah's Witnesses. So Operation Spotlight began over a year ago, but now is becoming very structured, and they are now starting to make some real progress. So, boy, I'll tell you what, I'm going to try to get the people on here and talk about this in the next couple of weeks because, I mean, we all would like to join it. And, excuse me, just coughing a little bit, but we all like to be part of it. And certainly, if President Trump is taking a look at all of this, this really brings music to my ears. Now, President Trump evidently is reading about the testimonies of these former witnesses and how they have really mentioning in the letters they've written on how much abuse they have suffered since they got out of the organization. So it goes on and on and on. It maintains that the organization's internal policies protect abusers, silence victims, and replace legal processes with internal judicial procedures that defy the laws of the United States. Now, this is what I really like. The letter has also been sent by more than 5,000 people, as we said, and the letters expressly request that the Department of Justice in America investigate possible cover-ups, that the Internal Revenue Service is also being aware of it. They're hoping that Trump can make the Internal Revenue Service aware of the Watchtower's tax-exempt status and how that could be looked at, and perhaps be because of what they're doing to people, they could lose that tax status. And boy, that would get the attention of the Watchtower pretty quick. So just to bear in mind now, they're not trying to ban the religion. They're just trying to get certain practices removed. So that's kind of good news, huh? I'm very happy that Trump has got the letter. And Jehovah's Witnesses, according to the letters that have been written here, going to Trump and the various governments, I like the term here. Jehovah's Witnesses practice a form of social death on those that leave and are disfellowship. Yeah, it's a form of social death. That's what it is. It's you were killed. They say that you are spiritually dead, but I'll go with social death. All of your friends, your relatives that were witnesses, they won't speak to you. That is heinous. And that, of course, is difficult to even process. But many people listening to this program have suffered the adverse effects of the Watchtower organization. So it looks like this campaign, Operation Spotlight, it looks like it's going to continue on, and they want to really go into 50 countries. Now, in the letter that was written to Trump, and I found this fascinating. We talk on here all the time about countries that are coming down to the Watchtower. But in this letter, they do mention to Trump that Japan, New Zealand, Spain, Brazil, United Kingdom, Argentina, they have now all launched formal investigations into the organization's practices. Oh my goodness. I love this. I really, really do. It's about time. It's really about time that this is all happening. What do you guys think? Is that good news? Is that good news tonight to hear that? I think it is. Go ahead and hit *6. Tell me what you think.
Rick?
Yes.
Hey, Don. Hey, I was as you were talking about this, I got to thinking about something that may make sense. I think this is why Anthony Morris was released. If you look at all the changes that were made since Tony Morris was released, I think now it looks like that's the reason why he was removed, because he probably did not agree with all the changes they were going to make. So you know, I feel like that they kicked him off the governing body because he refused to agree with them, and I believe that's probably part of the reason why he was removed. What do you think?
Yeah, I have different feelings on that, but that thought you have has been brought up many times here in the six screens. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not accusing Tony Morris of being involved in sex perverted rings, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking in view of a woman we had on our program a few years back, Selena Bertolomo. She went down to Lumberton looking for Tony Morris. She did a TikTok video as well as on our program. She stated it that she wanted to confront Morris because Morris raped her, and I believe she said her sister too when they were young girls. And she accused she said it, not me, that Tony Morris is a perverted man, a pedophile, and so
Wow.
yeah. So I mean, that could be. There's been many reasons, and we talked last week. That Bottlegate incident with him up in New York buying $1,000 worth of Macallan's Scotch. Uh, that might have just been subterfuge. That might have been a video made to get people's attention on the fact that Tony was drinking and maybe got drunk, and that's why he left. But I think it's bigger than that, Donald. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is. I was thinking that maybe that might be one of the reasons, maybe just part of it.
Yeah. Well, there's something that's I'll tell you what. Well, what happens after a while? Everything comes out in the wash. Uh, people can hide things. People can think they're getting away with things, but eventually something does happen. It comes out in the wash, and I believe that's where Watchtower is right now. All their dirty laundry isn't being cleaned. They can't launder it. It's dirty, and they can't
And I'm
launder it.
glad Trump is getting involved in this too, because it's about time he gets involved. Because granted, we've been hearing about all the cases around the world, but it's good that the United States is now getting involved in it. I mean, yeah, we've had. I mean, there's been investigations from Pennsylvania and stuff like that, but now it's gone deeper than Pennsylvania. It's gone to the federal government and to Congress and stuff. This is serious stuff, and Watchtower, you know, they're going to be shaking in their boots, so to speak, because they know they have the policies that are destroying lives, and if they continue to do this, that's going to be the end of the religion. And I think with them making all the changes, they're trying. I guess they're trying to clean themselves up on the surface. But you and I both know, Rick, that they can do all the surface cleaning they want. But the real truth is, they will not change what they believe about Jesus. What they believe about Jesus will never change. They'll change all the outside stuff, but they may let you have birthdays, and they may even let you have Christmas and stuff like that. But they're not going to change their stance on who they claim Jesus is, and they don't believe Jesus is God at all. So while they change the outside stuff, the most important stuff is who Jesus is.
Well, thank you, Donald, for that. Now that's exactly true, and we're going to talk about some of those changes coming up. We got the May study edition of the Watchtower that really Oh, wait till you hear some of this stuff. It's just, I'm really surprised they're doing this, but the Watchtower is surprising all of us as of late. But that'll be coming up in a little bit. All right. Well, thank you, Donald. Anyone else have further comments at all? And go
I
ahead.
think this might tie into the spotlight letters in a way. The AARP, if you're a member of their group and get their magazine, they have a fraud alert number. And any senior that's where the witnesses have tried to get their bank account or their home, or any senior that's been preyed upon instead of prayed for, you can call the AARP fraud alert and tell them that you're a senior citizen and that, you know, a group has tried to harm you in terms of fraud.
Well, I mean, I suppose we could even alert those fraud investigators about the Watchtower, because I
That's
mean,
what I'm saying.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
They've been approached in that way for their property or whatever.
Well, then we have so many people call up here in the last 20 years that have had property taken from them that really rightfully wasn't theirs. We had one man that, well, he had a program on here. His name is Jay. Remember him out of New York? And his father actually was a staunch witness and left the organization $350,000. And it was going to be Jay's. And then the elders weaseled it out of the father, and did some devious things and fraudulent. So poor Jay landed up in a nursing home. He's still in there now, and his life was really made difficult because of not being able to get his father's inheritance. Terrible.
So let the number that AARP has with the fraud alert, and I think it ties into this other push that they're doing.
Right. Well, I mean, it's no doubt about it. The world is waking up, Pixie, to the Watchtower. It's waking up. It's taken a while, but you can't have it. I mean, the countries are trying to become more humanitarian. I mean, even our country's trying to do the best they can for poor people falling through the cracks. They've got all kinds of systems in place to try to help people, and other countries are doing it too. So, there is some type of a humanitarian effort being pushed forward, not just by America, but other countries too. And they're not going to stand for an organization that tears families apart and separates children and causes all kinds of havoc in a person's life. Countries don't need that. They need good, stable families. They don't need families that are broken apart and won't speak to each other. They need stability. All right. Thank you, Pixie.
Well, anyway, have some free movies there on YouTube, and have a good week. And I can't wait to hear the changes from the Watchtower.
Oh,
I'm getting it from you, Brother Fair, and that's a meeting I can go to.
All right. Well, we'll be coming up with that in a short while. Let's go to 336. You run with us. Go ahead.
Hey, Rick, it's Jimmy.
Jimmy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm cranking away at it. Yep.
First off, I hope you get to feeling better. You sound like you're down in the got sick.
Yeah, well, I got a cold. I don't think anyone can catch it over the airwaves here, but I got a cold. But we got to go. We got to move forward. We do our show every Saturday night. Never missed a Saturday in 20 years, so we're here tonight.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to call in real quick because my phone just blew up. Folks were letting me know that you guys were talking about Operation Spotlight, and I just wanted to thank you for putting that out there again. And if anybody has any questions about it, what we did, I'd be more than happy to answer any of those questions for folks. I can't see the chat, so because I'm on my phone. But did you have any other questions about it or anything?
No, I think it's a good thing. And finally, like I say, you put a lot of effort into it, Jimmy, and now finally it's starting to get some traction. And from what I understand, and the information I got here coming into the 6 screens is Trump has read some of these letters.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. So, and there's actually some folks that sent letters in that have received letters back from certain congressmen and certain senators thanking us for sending those letters in to them. So not only did we send it to Trump, but we also sent it to the Attorney General of the United States. We sent it to the FBI director. Who else did we send it to? Oh, we sent it to every sitting senator in the United States. So we got it out there. I mean, and it came from all over the world. I think there was over 40 countries participating and sending it in. So that was good. And also some other folks in other countries were sending their own type of letter to their governments as well. So the information was getting out there. I know when I first started it, a lot of people said that, oh, this is just going to be a waste of time. It may fall flat on its face. And I admitted that. I was like, look, this could go nowhere. This could literally go nowhere, and we could be wasting our time. But one thing I have learned is when it comes to the government stuff, it runs kind of slowly. So I just told folks, let's just wait and see what happens, because the letters are out there. So somebody's going to see these letters. So we were glad that we got those results, and I'm glad that more is moving forward with that. And Watchtower is not going to be very happy with everything that's being exposed about them. Plus, there's a new documentary that's on HBO Max. It's a guy over in Spain, and they're doing a series about the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, granted, it's all in Spanish, but it does have English subtitles. If you hang on a second, I can get that title for you and let everybody know. So,
And is there a website for Operation Spotlight, sir?
No, we never did a website or anything. I just created an email so people could send me, they could send me their experience, whatever, their stories and things like that. But we never created a website. So no.
Well, Jimmy, that's great work you did. That's great work you did, really, seriously. Does anyone have a question for Jimmy? If you got a question for Jimmy Bell, he's on here with us now. He's involved with the Spotlight group that's really exposing the witnesses. And, of course, Donald Trump has been looking at some of the information, as well as members of Congress and the Senate. So this is really, really good what we see happening. And, it's efforts like Jimmy. When Jimmy makes efforts, he follows through, he gets it done. And that's what really works, friends. In the ex-witness world, there's a lot of naysayers, and it's not going to work. And I remember when Jimmy talked about it on the program here on 6 Screens, and, people were actually saying, Jimmy, it's a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. It took time to get the ball game rolling, but, so it gets me really upset. And it did Jimmy that night, too, because I remember when he came on and talked about it. And people were saying, oh, that's not going to work. Why all this negativism? It can work. Look what's going on around the world with witnesses. Golly.
Yeah, the thing is if you put your mind to something and you follow through with it and you do it for all the right reasons, the universe has a way of making sure that it's successful, or at least it's noticed. You know what I mean? I just felt like, me and Monica and Shelly, we just felt like this is something that we had to do. And once we started working on it, it just came together, and I'm glad it's gotten out there like it did. I mean, it's been a year since we put it out there, and here it is, still floating around. Oh, give you that title of that show that's on HBO Max is called Surviving the Jehovah's Witnesses. They're putting a series together. I think you've got one episode out already, but it's called Surviving the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's on HBO Max. It's in Spanish, but you can switch it over to English subtitles. And I'll go ahead and say this too. Y'all know John XJW Analyzer. He's been putting out a lot of stuff, and the show that he did last night broke down the numbers of Watchtower, their attendance, baptisms, all that stuff, and he broke it down in a way that Watchtower, if they see that video, they're not going to be happy, because it shows the continuous decline of Watchtower, and he used their own numbers, which was really good. It's about 30-minute video he did. So y'all can check that out too. So pretty good.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. It's really wonderful that you're getting the progress you wanted. Did you send a letter to the Supremes?
We did not send a letter to the Supreme Court. I
wish you would. I wish you would, sir.
Wait, did we? Honestly, I can't remember. It's been over here. I know we sent to the senator.
Now that the Senate has confirmed that some of them have seen it, I wish you would send a letter to the Supremes, please.
Yeah, it's yeah. I don't think we did that. Maybe somebody else did. I'm not sure. But
They'll read it. They'll read it.
yeah. I mean, when you have that many letters, I mean, all we did was use the Watchtower playbook against them. That's what we did.
I know.
And you know, they weren't
Watchtower. Wait up there, please.
Watchtower would never expect, you know, a bunch of apostates to, you know, organize together and do something like that back to them. But they've underestimated us. So, you know, I'm glad it's working out. I'm glad you guys are talking about it. And I appreciate the kind comments as well.
Yeah. Thank you for all you do.
No problem.
Well, Jimmy, keep cranking.
And you said you said the show you watched last night was some XJW analyzer. Is that right?
Yeah, let me get the title of that one for you guys. Hang on just a second. Let me find it. Because it was really, really good. I called John. I talked to him this morning. I said, dude, I nerded out on your video last night. It was really, let's see, where was it? All right, where are you at, John? Oh, Lord have mercy. Hang on, guys. I apologize.
Well, I'll tell you, John really is making a really good difference. He's making some of the best videos on YouTube. There's no question about it. He's doing a really, really good job.
Oh,
yeah, really good.
Yeah, he's definitely kicking butt right now.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, Rick.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, this is a prostitute out there. I want to highly recommend John's channel. I enjoy his wife, Beth, too, on Stop the Shunning, but if you want to really see somebody break down the whole psychology of Watchtower, which is what it really is, it's a psychological attack, that guy shows it all. And if it's not last night's video, his whole library of videos would be very illuminating.
Yeah, they are. Last night's video was titled, "This Memorial Change Reveals Watchtower's Decline." And honestly, Rick, it wouldn't be a bad idea, maybe next week or something, to kind of dive into that on the six screens and talk about it, because it breaks down. I mean, he did a forensic audit of the numbers. You know, for example, give you guys a teaser. Back in the 70s, it took about 1,300 hours of preaching to turn somebody into a baptized Jehovah's Witness. Now it's over 10 to 11,000 hours of preaching it takes to get somebody to join. So that's pretty cool. Also,
and that probably includes the 11-year-olds too.
Yeah. He talks about that as well. How most of their growth is from, you know, the born-ins, the people, you know, there. So watch that video. If you're a numbers person, watch that video, because you're going to be like immersed in it, and you're going to be like, damn, it's really good.
Everyone. Yeah.
Oh no, John has a gift. He really, really does. He could have been a lawyer. He could have been a politician. I mean, he's got the gift. He knows how to talk, and he's on the ball. Yep.
Can I ask you a question quick?
Sure.
Absolutely.
This apostate dude. Ruby lives in Tampa.
Right.
Now, here's the reason why this stuff gets bogged down. It's worth the effort with the letters, but of course, Trump has a lot on his plate right now, if I could just say that.
Just a little bit, right?
Yeah. But one of his Christian evangelical influences was down there in Tampa named Paula White. You know who she is?
That crazy lady? Yeah, I know who she is.
Oh my God, that is the scariest thing. You talk about lunatics in Iran, that she beats all of them put together. She's out there. And Trump is cool with it. She's a cute little blonde, but whatever.
Yeah, I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize and haven't learned yet about Trump is when he puts somebody out front and center, it's usually to put them in the spotlight for a reason. And I think that's one of the reasons why she is in that position of what she's doing. However, I will say this: if you guys have noticed over the last week or so, and John Marciano, one of my viewers, sent me a bunch of videos this week, and it showed all these different preachers talking about this thing in Iran and talking about it being the end of the world, which I'll go ahead and let you guys know it's not. But they had John Hagee out there doing his thing. They had that one guy, God, what's his name? Kenneth
Copeland?
Yes, that dude was he actually cut his hand with another guy on stage, mixed it with wine, put the two glasses together, and the freak started drinking it and talking. Oh man, if you just see that video, holy crap.
Kenneth Copeland is Epstein level crazy. I'm telling you. It's bad with that guy.
Yeah, that dude, he's a freaking demon to me. In my opinion, he's a demon. So, but yeah, there's a video out there of him, drinking the other guy's blood in front of his congregants. So I don't know what is going on right now with these religious leaders, but they're all seem to be in panic mode right now. So
yeah, they're going into the apocalypse narrative with this whole war thing. And that's, I mean, the Temple Mount and the Dome of the Rock is going to get blown up. All these weird narratives are happening.
Yeah, it's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. But like I've always said to everybody, you're watching a scripted movie and everything. Well, don't live in fear. Don't be fearful.
No, fear's not going to help. One more thing. Are you and Ruby still doing the political show on Tuesdays?
Absolutely, every Tuesday.
I gotta get in there, man. There's some stuff I gotta talk about with you. Anyway, nice talking to you.
Good talking to you too, man. Appreciate it.
All right,
Rick.
Yes.
Take over, Rick.
Yeah. I wanted to ask Jimmy when he's on here with us. You still there, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wanted to ask you. So, what's your take, Jimmy? I know you always have a take on what's going on in the world right now. What should we be focusing on? What do you think is going on, Jimmy? I mean, sometimes you dig a little deep. In fact, most times you dig deeper than the average Joe. So, what do you see going on?
Honestly, and I know people are going to roll their eyes or whatever. I know that happens all the time. But I think we're seeing a cleanup operation of this military operation that's been in place since 2017. Actually, a little longer than that, but it ramped up in 2017. So I think with the stuff in Iran and Venezuela and watch Cuba, because that's going to happen next, mark it down, it's going to happen. I think what they're doing right now is the military alliance worldwide, those working with the U.S., are taking out the money flow of the deep state players. And that's pinching them. And if they don't have the money, they can't do the trafficking. You remember, he went in and they took the cartel, worked on the cartels, blew them up in the Caribbean Sea and all that stuff. That's money. They're cutting off the money flow right now to the deep state. And that's what that's what's going on, in my opinion, right now. Now, I had said before that, a lot of people think we're going to go into a World War III. I told folks it's going to look like it, but no, it's not going to be no full-blown World War III. That's not going to happen. The media is going to say it is, and everybody's going to get scared about that. But no. Yeah, it's a cleanup operation, and I think within about 6 months, there are going to be some major changes here in the United States for the good for everybody. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, of course, every plan can change, but I think we're headed in a good place right now. I really do. I'm not even worried about it at all.
Well, good.
I hope you're right. You're more optimistic than I am.
Well, you're not the first person to tell me that, Vicky. You're not the first person, but
this was interesting. They had 110 formal complaints to a military board because the Army, some higher ups in the Army were using the Armageddon word.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this offended some in the chaplain's office. They were offended because not everyone goes by that script. But that didn't surprise me. But there were 110 formal complaints on that.
Yeah, I did hear about that this week. And you got to remember, these people that have been in control for so long, the people that control Watchtower itself, you know, these people have been getting by doing everything that they've been doing for decades. You know, keeping all of us enslaved through religion, through being on the hamster wheel, through unconstitutional taxes and all that stuff. And right now, that's why you see them all freaking out. That's why you see the media doing what it's doing. That's why you see the influencers on social media showing themselves, showing who they really stand with, because they know that their gig is up, and it's going to take a little time to, you know, work everything out. And I know everybody's all screaming about, oh, I need to see arrest, and I need to see this, and I need to see that. I get that. I understand that. But you got to take control of the judiciary system. You got to cut the money off, and then you got to get the people on board with arrest. So my biggest example on that, sorry, Rick, I'll keep this short. If Trump would have went in 2018 and 2019 and made all these arrests, then the people would have been like, what the hell is he doing? He's just being a tyrant. He's just being a dictator. That even though he had the evidence, he has all the Epstein stuff, watched all that stuff, he's got it all. But that's what they would have said. So that's why they had to play it out this way, so that the people could start to see the things being exposed. And now the people are calling for arrests, which they wouldn't have done that, 6 years ago. So, yeah, it's a very interesting world that we're living in right now, and I'm here for it. And that's why we do what we do every Tuesday night to talk about this stuff.
Well, good for you, Jimmy. That's good. Well, you keep up the good work and keep cranking away at it. You're making a difference, Jimmy. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate the time, Rick. Y'all have a wonderful evening, and take care and don't live in fear.
Well, thank you. Well, I'll tell you what. No, in fact, Jimmy does have a good attitude. Got a good, positive attitude. We always appreciate Jimmy coming on and sharing his thoughts. Well, you were on the 6 screens, Telenetwork, JW World News. Of course, this is the news the Watchtower doesn't want you talking about. But let me bring this story up here. This might tick a bunch of people off. But I'll tell you what, it ticked me off when I read this. In Norway, there's a newspaper, one of the major newspapers in Norway. It's called Dagen, Dagen. And it talked all about the Norwegian Supreme Court and the decision that they're going to make on the Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's going to come up. That's going to come up this month. Now, we all know about it, so I won't get into it. But we know all the deception, all the lies that Watchtower told the Norwegian court lawyers and what have you, which is a complete lie, big lie. But anyways, this Norwegian newspaper is coming across in the headlines saying that the Jehovah's Witnesses could receive a huge sum. Now we know, now that's something else, huh? Now we know that Jehovah's Witnesses, if they win, this newspaper is saying they could receive a huge sum. Now the decision from the Supreme Court in Norway, it's just around the corner. It can happen any day, and there's going to be a potential enormous payout to Jehovah's Witnesses if they win. Doesn't that make you sick? It really does. In fact, it turned my stomach when I first heard that. Now, at the beginning of February, the Supreme Court of Norway considered the case in which Jehovah's Witnesses have been deprived of both registration and state funding. So there was an appeal, and the witness lawyers came in and lied about all the things they do. They claim that they don't shun people. We know that's a lie, and other issues too they lied about. So the state accuses the Jehovah's Witnesses of a lot of things and cut their funds off. And because they shun and because they ostracize ones who leave, they lost all their funding. And that goes back to, I believe, 2020, I think. So anyways, what the point I'm trying to get here at is as I say, the Supreme Court is going to expect to deliver the decision this week. Now, if the Jehovah's Witnesses win the case, they will receive back payments of what they lost from 2021 to 2025. So they haven't been being paid their money from the country from 2021 to 2025. Now, according to the calculations made by this newspaper, the amount would be substantial. Well, specifically, 91.4 million Norwegian kroner. Now, we're talking Norwegian money, but I broke it down to, it would be $9.5 million in American currency. This calculation does not include interest. It is based on the number of members in the subsidy amount, which is increased each year. So $9.5 million. And the lawyer for Jehovah's Witnesses, that Anders Risdell, we all know that lying man, right? Well, he assumes there will be decision about interest payments. He's expecting that, he's going to have to get interest on this money that they didn't get for the last 4 years. So there's something. So anyways, that means the amount the state would have to pay if this religious community wins, if the Jehovah's Witnesses win in Norway, they're going to get $10.5 million. Now, doesn't it make you sick? Doesn't that make you sick that here we have a scandalous organization, and yet they could get all this money? So I wanted to bring that up and be able to talk to you about that tonight, because that really got me ticked off. It just goes to show you how corrupt. Now, we're not saying the witnesses won yet, but I'm going to tell you something. There's a better possibility of them winning this case than not, and that gets you upset too, right? But I certainly hope that doesn't happen. But I think it's possible that the witnesses will win, and the country of Norway is just going to hand them $10.5 million as they fine. And the Watchtower would say, "Well, see, nothing ever happened." And now they're starting to talk about it too in one of the updates on jw.org. Of course, Sanderson, he's on there talking about how it's persecution in Norway and persecution in other places where the witnesses are being investigated. But it's always persecution. And the witnesses have no idea what the real trials are all about. But they just take it as, look at Norway's picking on us. Isn't that something? So how's that settle with you? How's that make you feel when the Watchtower could land in a position getting $10.5 million and coming into court and lying? That's what makes me. I know it sounds cynical and negative here, but the world is so corrupt, right? If the Watchtower wins, I'm going to say corruption at its utmost. What do you guys think? Is that disappointing or what? If the Watchtower wins and they get $10.5 million, how would you feel about it? What do you think? Go ahead. Let me know. *6. All right. No one wants to comment on that?
He's a damn good lawyer if he can get that kind of money on a lie like that.
Well, these guys have no conscience, Pixie. I mean, he
must be the best lawyer in Norway.
Well,
the lie. It was so obvious what he was doing, even translated into English. We couldn't see what he was doing. My goodness.
Well, he is one of the best lawyers in Norway. As a matter of fact, he makes $600 an hour, Pixie. $600 an hour, and he gets right up there. See, what it is these men don't have a conscience. They'll get right up there and lie. And he explicitly said that the Watchtower doesn't shun. How can you make a statement like that? Every witness knows they do. At least every ex-witness.
They sure do. They sure do know.
And even the Jehovah's Witnesses themselves know.
It surprised me. It really did.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick. This is Jesse in Yuma.
Yes, Jesse.
I just want to throw, I could be wrong. I could be wrong, and it's totally opinion. I have no, but it's just my thought on your question about the $10 million.
Yes.
I really don't care. I don't think it moves the needle. And I don't know if I'm callous towards Watchtower, but I'm neither happy nor sad nor angry, because at the end of the day, I don't think the $10 million moves the needle. Nobody's going to get rich off of it. And somebody could say I'm totally wrong, and I'll defer to them and I'll agree with them. But I say let them have the $10 million. That's all they're going to have. They're not building treasures in heaven. They're just going for the money now. And I think it makes them look petty when they're going for money. I really think it lowers them. It cheapens them. Because a real Christian does things for conviction and never does things for money. Well, that's what we would hope a true Christian does. So I really don't care if they get 10 million. I don't care if they get $10 billion. I really don't care about them. They could shove it down their mouth. They're power hungry opportunists, you know, and so the $10 million doesn't hurt me. And I'm sorry if I offend anybody by thinking that way. I don't mean it. It's just a personal opinion I have.
Oh, no, that
Rick?
doesn't. Yeah, go ahead. No, that doesn't offend us, Jesse. Yeah, I see your logic behind that. Yeah, go ahead. I guess we got, is it 651? Go ahead, 651.
Yeah, this is 651. Yeah, I watch your show, and there's a lot of great comments that are made. I would have to say I don't think I disagree with anything that is said, but I'll give you my feelings. You're dealing with a corporation, very, very powerful, connected politically. They're very manipulative. They know they have the art of controlling people. They can control people in the congregation. They know how to dance the right dance. They know how to shake the right hands, grease the right palms. You know, they're a corporation. They have a team of lawyers. Okay, the team of lawyers is not only to protect them from accusations, but the team of lawyers guides them in a direction to go to and what decisions that they should make. So I appreciate Jimmy Bell coming on. You know, I think he's full of spunk. I would team him up with Dan Clark, but you're going against powerful people, and we're just a bunch of peons. And I'm not being negative. I know you said something about people are negative. I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic. And for us to try to grab the bull by the horn and to shake it and to bring down the Watchtower, it's going to be almost impossible to do it in the court of law, legally, using man-made laws, political laws. I believe that the only way that the Watchtower can be brought down is by stabbing them in the heart. And what I mean by that is that they built their religion based on biblical teachings. That's how they built that. It's an empire. They manipulated people. They put fear in them to control them. Or you're going to be destroyed in Armageddon. Don't listen to people outside the congregation. It's Satan trying to pull you out of Jehovah's Witness. It's all manipulation, and it was done by religious, biblical doctrine teachings. The only way, in my opinion, you're going to bring them down is you're going to have to reverse their biblical teachings. You're going to have to expose the biblical teachings. Now, you may not be able to shut them down, shut the Watchtower down immediately. You may have to wait for the witnesses in the congregation now to die off, because some are not ever going to leave. But you're going to have to prevent them from continue to building their religion by bringing in new people who believe in what they're doing, that they're being guided by Jesus, you know. And I hope that's a good comment. I hope that I would like to hear somebody come in and bounce off of my comment. I'd like to hear what somebody else has to say about it. But I really believe in my heart. And I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm not the dullest tool in the shed either, you know. It just use your common sense. Slow down. Don't make it complicated. Look at the evidence. Look at what's going on. And you just cannot beat a powerful, rich, connected organization like Jehovah's Witnesses, the Watchtower. You know, it's going to be very difficult. And because they have too much money, they have too many friends in the right places, and they have a team of lawyers. They also have, I believe they have, I would describe them as a team of PhD, you know, business minded people that know how to manipulate business, you know, social business. They got it all. They got it all under control. They're prepared. There's nothing you can attack them with them that they can't fight back. That they don't know how to fight back. You know. So you know, I agree with everything that you say. I love listening to your show. I think you're doing a great job. But on my feelings of it, I like to be realistic about, you know, how can we really stop the Watchtower, and that's reversing, keeping new members from joining, stop them from building their corporation by having new workers, the ones that build the kingdom halls. They go out in field service recruiting. They donate their money. They do all the maintenance work on all the kingdom halls. They're the ones that are slaves. They're not only slaves, but they also giving their money to them. That's their power right there. It's the people in the congregation. That's their strength, and that's where you have to go after the strongest part of the Watchtower organization, and that's the followers who do all the work and donate all their money. That's why the Watchtower is so rich and powerful. That's where they got their money from. Free labor, building of empire, free taxes. And what do you think, Rick?
Well, I think it's a very knowledgeable comment you're making there, seriously. And I'm in somewhat agreement with it. They do get a lot of stuff handed to them. The tax exemption, I mean, that is just big time. That's millions and millions and millions of dollars. But, you know, in fact, what you were saying, we have to stop people from coming in. When we first started the Six Screens 20 years ago, my feeling was, you know, maybe we can't get a lot of witnesses out, but maybe we can make a real concerted effort to stop them from coming in. If we can stop the witness from growing, the Jehovah's Witness organization from growing, I mean, that's going to cut off their money supply. But I'll tell you another thing. I really feel, and I'm not quite totally sure this is happening, but I really believe the Jehovah's Witness organization is destroying itself, the demolishing itself. It's some of the crazy things they're coming up with, and you'll hear it coming up now. I get some changes I'm going to talk about here shortly, but it's almost like it's a controlled demolition. And if they can get people just to leave and go about their business, they can sell off the kingdom halls, and there's millions of dollars, because it's just a business. This is not a self-contained spiritual religious organization. The guys at the top do not believe this is the truth like the rank and file do. This is nothing but a money-making business. So my feelings are that there's more money right now from them to make with all this real estate. I mean, they've been really working hard the last 10 years, turning all the kingdom halls over to their name and, you know, being able to sell it off and collect the money. So that's a possibility, because some of the changes they're making is just not sensible. It's not. But no, I enjoy your comments. Who would like to comment on what our good friend just said? What was your name, sir?
Rick, I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, let's go with let's go with the lady there. Go ahead, miss. Go ahead.
So that was a very good comment. I kind of look at it in a different perspective. I heard Sanderson talk, and he popped up on Facebook or something, and it was so disgusting because they are so deceptive, and you see them the way they tell their story, trying to make themselves look so bad. And so here's the thing, what they're doing, how they're treating people that are sincere people that love God, and how they turn people away from God, and how they drive people, destroy families, and make people commit suicide. It's unthinkable what they are doing in God's name, and how they change His word. And I think that if you plant corn in your garden, you're not going to get beans. And I think that they're planting, like the Bible says, you're going to reap what you sow, that God will catch the wise in their cunning. And just like Pharaoh thought that he was so high and mighty, and boy, in one night he was brought down. And I really think, and I hope, now on one hand, we could just say they're just one of the false religions, they're all grouped together, but I would love just to see God step in, because even though it looks like they've got all this power and all these connections, they don't have any one connection that's really important, like Yahweh. And he can step in at will, and he can catch them. He can thwart their evil plans, and that's what I really would love to see happen.
Well, thank you, sister, for bringing that up. Ultimately, God will put an end to these guys, I'm sure. Go ahead, you're on with us. Go ahead. Who's this?
Rick?
Yes.
Rick? Yeah, it's Dick.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts. When I was in the cult, I was told 1,000 trillion times that Satan controls all the governments of the world. Here's the Watchtower begging the government of Norway for money. As whack job as C.T. Russell was, he did make a statement that if we have to beg for money, we will know that Jehovah is not blessing this organization. My thought on what they're doing, they're trying to project the image that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society does not have a policy about shunning. It's make-believe. The apostates brought it up. They invented it. That is such an blatant lie. There's oceans and oceans of evidence that it is a lie, that they do shun. Everybody knows it's been shunned. My boys haven't talked to me in 20 years. They shun. They absolutely do shun. But they're trying to tell the Norwegian courts they don't shun, which tells me the fix is in. And you're probably very right, Rick. They're probably going to lose the case because the fix is in. The Watchtower is so immoral. It has no integrity. They probably bought somebody off on the Supreme Court in Norway. $10 million. I kind of disagree with the brother that talked a little bit earlier. I don't think it's a drop in the bucket to them. I think 10 cents is a lot of money to the Watchtower because they're so greedy that they're going after every possible cent they can get. They would have no problem taking, money from a 5-year-old. They've done it. It's so corrupt. But I do think there's a possibility. I hate to think of it this way, but I think there's a distinct possibility you could be right, and that the Watchtower will win the case and will get their $10 million. Thank you, Rick.
Well, there you go, Dick. It makes you sick when we think about that. And I like what you said, the comment on 10 cents is a lot of money to the Watchtower. And that's true. That's true. Some of the experiences that we hear here on the 6 screens prove that. Well, thank you, Dick. All right. So maybe what we'll do is move on. Yeah, go ahead.
It's Matthew from South Africa, Rick.
Yes.
Sorry to hear
Yes,
you
Matthew.
sick. I hope you get better soon.
Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to comment on if the hopes towards what happens in Norway meets with disappointment. What actually happens is there actually an appeal to the European Court of Human Rights? I mean, it's a possibility, but some of the ways that the states actually adjust, because if we look at Sweden, like was that 2017 or 2019, where they put in the subsidy, or they decided to continue with the subsidy, what invariably happens is your political or legislative response is that the state can actually rewrite the religious subsidy law to better justify restrictions. So it still has some kind of recourse with child protection conditions that are tied to funding. It doesn't actually stymie them completely. So there are some things that can happen. And then, European human rights has wider scrutiny. I think what's happened here is this kind of case has been exposed, or it's exposed what's going on. So the scrutiny is there. So even if the legal case ends domestically, the issue still can reach European oversight bodies such as the Council of Europe monitoring committees or the European Parliament human rights discussions. Look what's happened in UK. So you've got two opposing parties there in UK that are in agreement about what's happening with JW and the abusive policy. So I don't know if that gives some kind of hope there, Rick. We're just going to have to wait and see, but I don't think it's over. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, thank you for saying that, Matthew. It's a very possibility. This could go on and on and on, but we'll see. We'll see what does happen with the Watchtower. Thank you, Matthew. Always good to hear from you. All right. So let's move on here. Let's move on. I've got I want to go to this here because this here I've been talking about it all day. Big changes coming to the Jehovah's Witness organization. We now have a transformation of congregational authority, and this is something, the big revision here, folks. I want you to hear it. Maybe you've heard about it already, but we have to go to the May 2026 issue of the Watchtower, and reviewing it. There's some things in here that really should really put the Watchtower under the microscope, and many people will leave because of what I'm going to say next. I'm just going to mute some people here on. Let me just mute some people so we don't have all this noise in the background. All right. So anyways, what I want to say is that May 2026 Watchtower appears as it is suddenly discovered congregational authority perhaps should not extend to every corner of its members in their private life. So it starts off by saying congregational authority or elders' authority. It should not extend into every corner of a member's private lives. Now, we know the Watchtower has done that for years, right? I mean, you didn't have a life being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. They had something to say about everything you did. But now they're retracting that. They're saying that they're not going to really be looking at every little corner of its members' private lives. Now, this is significant, folks. Okay, what is now presented is very significant. It's a significant modification. It raises an uncomfortable question. If these decisions were always personal, why were they treated for generations as a matter of spiritual surveillance? Now, let me just reiterate what I'm saying here. Okay, what they're saying here is is if you were not following the rules of the Watchtower. Well, let's just take on the toasting matter, okay? That they just changed. You can now toast or clean your glass. Uh, if you were not following that, they would be into that. That's your private life, whether you wanted to toast glasses or not. But they would have something to say about it, and they're basically saying these decisions are always personal, but they always had some ruling on it, and they would judge your spirituality on the fact of whether you toasted or not. If you were seen at a wedding toasting, you may even be brought into the back room, right? Not now, but back then, the last year they changed it. But you might have even been brought into the back room because you toasted or clinked some glasses at a wedding. Oh, Brother Farron, did you toast? Did you clean those glasses? I mean, really? And then you would be looked at as being spiritually weak. So that's the spiritual surveillance. There was like a message sent out when someone was doing something that they shouldn't have been doing. For example, let's go with the sanctioned rooms at when you go to an assembly or a congregation or a convention, how you'd have to get a room sanctioned by the Watchtower. If you didn't get that room sanctioned by the Watchtower, I mean, they wouldn't disfellowship you for it, but there was a written rule, well, an unwritten rule, really, that it'd be best you get it. And if you got a room that was other than the hotels that the Watchtower wanted you to stay at, you would have spiritual surveillance. They would look at you as a weak person. That's a fact. I mean, I see it, that happened to me. I was considered weak because I didn't get a room once that they sanctioned. Just bear with me, my cough here as we go along. So they're basically saying that these decisions were always personal. Well, I don't totally agree with that in this article, but I mean, you weren't going to be disfellowshipped about it, but they were saying it was basically personal, and they would judge you on if you broke one of these rules. Like I say, you would be a weak person. Now, what we see emerging, it's not simply a theological update, but it's a substantial redefinement of the scope of the congregational authority. Let me just kind of reword that a little better for you. The Watchtower is now quietly, but they're doing it in the Watchtower here, so it's not too quiet. They're quietly redefining, they're trying to do it without, big fanfare, but they're redefining the elders' authority. And they're trying to get the elders away, all Jehovah's Witnesses away from casting judgment on other Jehovah's Witnesses. But primarily here, it's referring to elders. So what they're doing here, this is really, we're witnessing a revolution here, a new way of operating for the Watchtower. And it could be because of the social and legal environment that's surrounding it. The world is catching up, as we talked earlier, on Jehovah's Witnesses. And they got to make some changes. And in Norway, they got to make some changes. They can't, the whole world now has got them under the microscope. So they got to make some changes. So when the organization modifies historical norms, I mean, we know how we were treated when we were in the Watchtower. Historical norms. There are a lot of things that, it wasn't really going to be disfellowshipping offense, but you couldn't do it. Associating with worldly people, for example, that might not have disfellowshipped you, but if you did that, if you were seen out to dinner or wherever you would be with a worldly person talking, you would be known as a weak person. We know that. So they're rewriting their own history here now. They're trying to make it seem like it was always this way. No, it wasn't. There was a hard and fast rule that we weren't supposed to do certain things. Now, we weren't disfellowship for it, but we would judge to be spiritually weak. So for the last 20, in the last 20th, much, I should say, much of the 20th century, the Jehovah's Witness organization developed a rather distinctive system of behavioral regulation. Many normalcies or normal things did not appear to explicit prohibitions, and yet we were able to do them without really the Watchtower coming down on us. So these rules that we were following, they really had no biblical backing, that they had no, scriptures that could back up what they were saying. And what are some of the things? Well, let's just start off with higher education. Now, the article here in the May 1st Watchtower talks about higher education. And there's actually a footnote that says that, just a small little footnote. This is how Watchtower makes adjustments. Rather than have it in, the people study it right in the study article itself, they'll put a little footnote down the bottom of the page. And it says that, for years, the Watchtower really kind of persuaded you not to go to higher education. But now they're saying that's a personal decision. And so some of these things, as we mentioned, toasting, beards, slacks. I knew Jehovah's Witnesses that had beards. They were never disfellowshipped for it. It was kind of a personal decision, but they were considered spiritually weak. The idea of sanctioned rooms, like I talked about. Oh, the same thing with slacks. I've seen Jehovah's Witness women in the past, even when they were loyal witnesses, wear slacks. They were never really disfellowshipped for it, but they were just looked at, well, she's spiritually weak, she's wearing slacks. How about buying something from the Goodwill? Well, you've heard it said, don't buy something from the Goodwill. It might have a demon attached to it. So even that, was something that was a rule. And if they saw you in the Goodwill store buying some clothing or something because you couldn't afford to go to Macy's, then you were looked at as a spiritually weak person. How about going to a 4th of July parade? I know a brother that was counseled on that, but he wasn't disfellowshipped. But this is personal. They're making it very, very clear that is now a personal position that you're taking. And the elders cannot cast judgment, or any other witnesses cannot cast judgment or hold you in contempt of being a weak person. So that's what I'm saying. This is an organizational change. So the elders have really been stripped from this, policing people in such a way and judging them, and you don't do this, don't do that. So this is really a real modification in the elders' responsibilities here. And you want to speak up? Go ahead. Who wants to speak up?
Yeah, Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just called a minute ago. I hope it's okay if I call back and make another comment. Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you got me all fired up, man, and if you take a close look at what the Watchtower is doing, all the changes, the beards, the women can wear pants, and you can go through the whole list, the toasting, the changes they made with 1914 generation, they said, well, no, we didn't have the right understanding, but now we do. It's overlapping. All the different changes that they're making, and even the ones that you're talking about tonight. This organization, they're very intelligent. They know what they're doing. They don't want their corporation to be shut down. They don't want to shut down the money flow. So they have to figure out a way to keep that money flow coming, because that's what they're in business for, is the money, not out to help people spiritually. So they're very deceptive, and you have to study them real closely at how they're engineering these changes. And I'm going to give you my take on it. And I like that old saying that you said, take it to the bank, cash it. I think this is a take it to the bank and cash it comment. What they're doing is they're threatened by JW World News, all the other YouTubers that are making videos about Jehovah's Witnesses, the stuff on the news, everything. You know, people are now being able to expose Jehovah's Witnesses in a way that they never could before. So now, because of technology, so now the Watchtower organization, they can see that. So what they're doing is just like Rutherford. When Rutherford took over from Taze Russell, look at all the changes he made. He completely changed the what Taze Russell started. He even changed the name from Bible students to Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, so the changes have never really stopped, if you think about it. So the changes that they're making now is they're laying out the foundation of a new religion. That's how I feel about it. They realize that they're not going to be able to stand by the name Jehovah's Witnesses for very much longer because the name has been drugged in the mud. So just like Rutherford changed the name from Bible students to Jehovah's Witnesses, I suspect that they're going to slowly, completely, rebrand the religion, make it a completely different religion, and it's like what GB said, they're destroying their past, and that's what they're doing. They're burning all the old publications, and they're changing their old teachings. You can grow a beard now, and they're laying the foundation to a new religion that they're going to switch over to, because they want to continue to make money with religion. And they know that they have new babies being born. There's going to be future generations, and that's what I feel that's what they're preparing for is the new generation of people. 20 years from now, and because I think they realize that they've lost. That they cannot stand by their teachings. They have to change them now. And that's my comment.
Well, it's a good comment, and thank you. No, I agree with you too to a certain extent on that. Yes, in fact, but I'm reading this now right verbatim from the Watchtower study article, May 1st. It says in here, no member should judge the personal decisions of other believers. I mean, come on. We were always judged. Oh, hold on one second. I don't like his haircut. I don't like the suit he's wearing. We were always judged. And also now this is right from the Watchtower, I'm reading this. Elders should not create rules regarding personal matters. Individual decisions belong to the believer's conscience before God. Isn't that something? What do you have to say, brother?
Yeah, it's Scott from Florida.
Yeah, Scott.
I've experienced that spiritual oversight before they wanted to appoint me as a ministerial servant. They apparently contacted the society because I was a hunter. I went out deer hunting, and they had questions about that and told me that had to be considered and how the congregation would view that before they would appoint me as a ministerial servant. Now, they ultimately did, but I'm like, well, why? This is legal. I'm not doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with hunting animals as long as you follow all the laws. And then again later, I was, sometimes I played card games and, read magazines, and I went into a place called the Three Trolls comic shop. And apparently somebody saw me go in there, and it got back to the elders, and I was a ministerial servant at that time. And they said, you shouldn't be doing that because that stumbles people. That's a bad example. You're going into the Three Trolls, and, trolls are not something that's part of Christianity. And I said, yeah, but I didn't do anything wrong. And it really upset me. So I wrote the society and I said, is there any difference in going into the Three Trolls card shop or Lucky's Pizza or Unicorn Travel? Because those were actual businesses in the town. I said, so if I buy a pizza from Lucky Pizza, am I spiritually weak and did something wrong? Well, apparently that got back to the elders. I didn't know the society would apparently notify the elders that one of the ministerial servants contacted them. But again, that just shows the level of intrusion. And they were like, well, why did you write the society about it? I said, because you guys were telling me I was doing something wrong, that I shouldn't have been doing that. And, rather than just telling whoever it was to mind their own business, that he wasn't doing anything wrong because he went into a comic shop that happened to be called Three Trolls. And then again, my wife wanted to have a party with my daughters, and, she was pretty young. And she invited a lot of the kids from the congregation, and there was going to be a theme that you could dress up as an animal or something. You could dress up how you wanted. Oh my gosh, I got another lecture from the elders. This mimics Halloween, and you need to be very careful about this. And they need to be careful about their the types of costumes that they have and all that. So again, I've experienced that where they're just trying to intrude, and you feel like your decisions are constantly watched, even though you personally feel like you're not doing a single thing wrong in any way, shape, or form. And yet you're getting criticized. So that's just my
Well, Scott, that's an excellent example right there. You weren't going to be disfellowshipped, but it was like an unwritten rule, to hold you back from something. But they would look at you as spiritually weak because you went into the troll shop and because you were going to be a hunter. But this is now I'm reading here, right from the Watchtower. No member should judge the personal decisions of other believers. Elders should not create rules regarding personal matters. Individual decisions belong to the believer's conscience before God. And then they even use some biblical references here. Well, they use a reference here from Romans 4:1 and how Christians are to not really classify other Christians as weak. Why didn't they use that scripture before? And now all of a sudden they pull that one on you. Why didn't they say that years ago? And then they also deal with James here. I'll give you an idea what that says. James 4:12. There was only one lawgiver and judge. So they're saying that you're really not supposed to judge people. But I mean, geez, Watchtower was doing that for years. So big changes on the horizon. And I mean, all of us.
Something
Sure.
to the comment here.
Yeah.
In my personal experience, elders are very vindictive. It doesn't matter what the organization says. You've been in back rooms and they've discussed the low hour publishers, brother so-and-so, brother this, brother that, and accused them of all sorts of nefarious things. At least I've experienced that. I don't care what the society says. They've already trained the pit bulls to act accordingly. If they determine you're weak, and obviously, if they've counseled you about stuff and now it's all right, you may be gloating a little bit. And guess what? They're going to wipe that damn smirk off your face. They're just starting a whole new form of turmoil. And Rick, you were in the truth your whole life. So when exactly did the total elder disaster experiment start? Was it 73, 72?
72.
72. And in my experience, even though I came in 76, this elder body experiment destroyed the organization. Because most of the people I knew who were servants were complete incompetence, being asked to judge people's life or death. And they thought that was going to work out because so-called Holy Spirit appointed them. I can honestly assure you 90% of the elders I've ever known my whole life could hardly been appointed by a paroled criminal from the county jail as being a minister. I've known better ministers and priests who were probably molesters than most of the elders who were running off with teenage girls. Many, many of them. I don't want to go into that, but at the same time, No, nothing's going to improve an organization because they pretty much laid their life down for one doctrine, just fellowshipping. They're going to the courts to keep just fellowshipping. So I don't know where their priorities are. They think Jehovah is a volcano god. We got to throw people into the volcano, or he will not bless us. Well, I don't think he's blessing you right now.
Well, that's a good comment. It's a good comment, King of Dots.
No, you don't have to tell me it's a good comment. That's like being at the Watchtower study.
Well, when I hear some, no, I like the way you say it. Yeah, but I mean, this new formulation of this new elders' way of doing business, it really limits the congregational authority in areas that previously were regulated by the elders. So I don't know what they're going to do with this. I mean, if they can't be poking their nose around everybody's business, really, this is something to consider. So I don't know what job the elders are going to have in the future, but they're suggesting in this article it establishes that elders must, now not kind of saying it would be good if you could. They're saying elders must base their counsel explicitly on explicit Bible principles, avoiding imposing personal experience or cultural traditions, and not go beyond what is written. This is a big change. No, I mean, it could open up all kinds of doors here. That's what I'm thinking. This is a new pattern of congregational leadership. So I'm just thinking, look at all the things, we would be accused of, like I said earlier, going out to dinner with a worldly person, someone at work, and someone saw you. What were you doing with him, Brother Ferrin? I mean, really, they look at you as spiritually weak. And then now I'm even thinking this could open up a whole new ball game. Witnesses could really take this to the nth degree. Well, what about, many weddings I did not go to? I didn't go to the wedding from my relatives, many of them, because they weren't witnesses and they were going to be married in the church. And I couldn't go in the church. I could go to the reception, but I couldn't go to the church. I would say that's a personal decision. So maybe they'll let that one slide. But boy, I'll tell you, things are changing. Yeah. So what do you think? I mean, all of us have experienced that, right? What do you think, Gilbert? Yeah. Go ahead. Let the sister go first. Yeah.
Oh, Rick, hi, it's Donnie.
Hi, Donnie.
I hope you feel better soon.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, Rick. Yeah. You said earlier about a brother who he was left nothing in his father's will because his father left everything to the Watchtower. I think things like that, they should be writing about that, when you have your inheritance gets left to the Watchtower Society. My ex-husband, he had a stroke and that left him disabled. And I rang the presiding overseer to organise brothers to go and assist Richard because he was mostly housebound, And he wasn't interested, the elder. And I said, look, Richard's leaving all his estate to the congregation. I said, so I really think you ought to organise some sort of assistance. He's, disabled, hobbling about at home. Anyway, he wouldn't do anything about it, the presiding overseer. And a year later, after a lot of struggling, Richard died, and the congregation got £172,000. Which is $230,000. And the elders wouldn't even go and visit Richard or help him with anything. I just think it's absolutely disgusting. I really do.
Of course it's disgusting, Donnie. But that's what they do. They're bums. It's a shame what they do. Scandalous. Terrible.
It is. Yeah, I was shocked about that. And also, of course, they had to, in the end of the day, they had to give that money anyway to the head office, don't they, at Bethel. So, and I just think, they're going to be fast asleep, these congregation elders. They get left loads of money by his brother. They refuse to help him. They get left the money anyway. And then And then they're told to send it to head office. I mean, they should know that there's something weird going on at head office where they want all the money. It's really bad, really bad. Thanks, Rick.
Well, thank you, Donnie. Now, listen, have you ever been counseled or in some way talked to about something that was trivial, that wasn't of any significance? I mean, all of us have to some degree.
Yeah, I have a story. Oh,
Who has a story? Go ahead.
hi, it's Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, Rick. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
I had a very humorous story. Now it's humorous, but back then, you know, it was serious. My son was a servant in the congregation, and an article came out, I think, in 2017 about beards. And it actually opened the way for it to be something, it's up to your choice. And so he and a fellow ministerial servant grew beards. They said, let's grow a beard. And they did. And they were very neat and groomed and everything. Well, it was interesting. They presented, you know, the article to the elders. Well, you know, we can grow a beard if we want to. And then the elders came down on them and said, well, somebody complained about your uncomfortable. And so the elders presented it, and I found out it was one of the wives of the elders that put it into his ear. Oh, I don't like that beard. So it's interesting. It's just an interesting thing about the organization and all the judgments. I was thinking that the wives had impact on that too. So this is going to take away the power of the wives too, which is good. It's just humorous. My son ended up fading and then learning about the ARC, and then he presented it to me. That's how we got out of the organization. But anyway, it's just a humorous memory of, you know, oh, well, she's not comfortable with your beard. You know, I mean, they would make judgments on people. And he had a talk coming up at that point, and they said, well, just shave your beard off for the talk, and then you can grow it back. That's what they told him.
Yeah.
And it just shows you how authoritarian, I would call it a regime, it filters down. It filtered down into the elder body and then even their wives. So just showing the negativity of something like that. That's a good point about, you know, they're preaching, don't judge, but all they do is judge. Okay, thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you, Christine. Always good to hear from you. But that's true. Now here they do. For years, they were so judgmental. I mean, everything you were judged on. Well, one time they didn't like my suit. I was a young man. I had a nice suit, a little bit different, and I don't like the suit. Don't wear it when you give a talk. Don't even bring it to the Kingdom Hall wearing it. So, you know, it's just everything was always, don't do this, or that's not right. So now they don't want the individual members of the Jehovah's Witness organization judging. They don't want the elders judging. But now they've done this for like 100 years, or at least for the better part of the 20th century. And there's no apology. There's no apology. No review of the past saying, you know, we make an adjustment here. It's a little footnote on, you know, you can now go to college, higher education. There's no historical reckoning. Well, you know, we one time did this, but we're not going to do it now. It's only a very silent adjustment that is going to rewrite decades of control as though they never existed. Isn't that something? Boy. Go ahead. You want to come in 908?
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh my God. I have learned. Well, I was born into this religion. I left. I'm 60 years old. I left when I was in my early 20s. And over the last 3 years, oh my God, I have learned so many things about this religion that I never even knew. I still have two sisters that's in it. My mom is deceased. My dad was never a witness, but I had 5 other. You know, I had 4 other siblings. it's just so amazing, all the stuff I've learned about this religion that I never even knew. But I never went back into the religion because it was just so controlling. Like they even control what you could watch on TV. So is that now considered a personal decision? You know, they even want you watching certain shows. You know what I'm So now they're turning everything, you know, they're turning everything around now. And I'm just so upset I can't get my sisters out of this religion. They're still in it. They're still, two of my sisters, they're still in it, and their families, they're still in it. But it's just amazing, all these changes that's taking place. And one day I just Googled this religion like 3 years ago, and I started seeing all these different, your website. I saw JT and what's her name? Lady C, that's the first one I saw. But there's so many websites out here now that's exposing this religion for what it is. I knew something was wrong with it when I was growing up in it, but you know, you just couldn't put your finger on it. But it's just so amazing, you know, the control they have over people's lives. It's just crazy. And I'm glad I never went back. When I faded, I never went back. So my sisters, you know, they talked to me, but you know, I never went back.
Well, good for you, sister. You brought up something too that got me thinking. You know, now that they're not going to cast judgment, and you know we have personal decisions. Yeah, now maybe you can go see an R-rated movie. I mean, you couldn't do it if they caught you. I mean, they wouldn't disfellowship you, but if they saw you standing in line to go to an R-rated movie, you were weak. You would get this. Everyone would kind of look at you as, boy, what's the matter with him? He's going to an R-rated movie. Something wrong with him. I mean, hopefully that all disappears, boy. Well, thank you, sister. Well, thank you for calling in. I really appreciate that. Go ahead, you're on with us. Yeah.
I watched the last year the convention. I watched the convention too online last year. It was really good.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for coming and being with us. Yeah, appreciate it. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, let's go to 970. Is that you, Joe?
Yeah, it's Joe.
Yeah.
Along with that sister's comment about the control, I have a funny feeling that some of the elders, especially some of the elders that have been elders for a long time, they're going to have a big struggle with this. I want to share two experiences to show how deep their control is. And we all know the Watchtower is nothing but control with fear, guilt, and obligation. But I remember the congregation, there were several people that wanted to have a kind of like a talent show. And I didn't want anything to do with it because I knew it would be, there would be somebody being counseled over this. So they had a couple elders kind of like vet the participants to make sure it was spiritual and things like that. Well, there was a ministerial servant that was playing the guitar, the acoustic guitar, and he played Stairway to Heaven. Now, I don't actually even know why that was a bad song, but later on, they had a meeting with him, and they removed him because evidently the song had some sort of, I don't know. But anyway, they removed him as a ministerial servant. And that's the control. That's the control. And lastly, the last meeting I ever went to before I was dismissed, I just couldn't take it anymore. We met right after the Sunday meeting, and a brother who didn't like one of the elders did not like one of the brothers that was reading for the Watchtower. I knew there was hostility, and he had said he could not read for the Watchtower anymore because his mustache it was too long. It passed the lips. And I said, my goodness, when does it end? That's what I said at the meeting, and I just got up and walked out. But yeah, I think the elders are going to have a hard time because little by little, that grip of control, they're going to lose.
Oh, right. They're not going to, thank you, Joe. They're not going to have the authority they had. They're going to feel they just been demoted. They have been demoted, Joe. Thank you for coming on. Thank you. Go ahead, Dick. What do you have to say, Dick? Yep.
Yeah, just a little experience that I'll just put up there about judgmental the elders are. I remember a time I was working overtime at my company, and it came to me in a flash that my book study was cleaning the Kingdom Hall. So I left work early off my overtime clock, and I come flying in, and I was on my Harley, and I parked in the parking lot. And one of the elders said to me, that's not a very good look for the Kingdom Hall. You're having a motorcycle parked there, I guess he was kind of referring to the fact that I live so close to Kingdom Hall, I should have parked it at my house and walked over. But I was late, and that was the fastest way to get to my assignment. So I pulled into the parking lot, and they didn't like it. It's the first time that he could recall ever seeing a motorcycle at the Kingdom Hall parking lot. So they talk about judgmental, a motorcycle. I guess it was a Harley Davidson and Hell's Angels or something drove him. I don't know what his thinking was, but he didn't like the Harley Davidson in the parking lot. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dick. That's a perfect example of what the witnesses would do in the past. Now let's see what happens in the future, according to the May 1st Watchtower Study Edition. Not only elders can't dive or get involved with your personal matters, but also, I like what Christine said when you called up, the elders' wives or anybody. You're not to be judgmental. Just let it go. So I think that's good. All right. Let me just mute Dick here. All right. Well, anyways, what I find fascinating here. You want to speak up? Go ahead. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. It seems like these new ways is going to relieve them from any spiritual or legal liability. And they just decentralized everything when they say, well, we're not a centralized organization. Well, now they're not a centralized organization. They go, I don't know. It was their decision. We don't have anything to do with it.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So I wonder now if they're going to dismantle their spy squads.
Well,
their little intelligence squads,
Well, I imagine that's going to go too. So that this is a monumental change. And
there won't be any more elders. I think there won't be any more elders. They're going to completely change, like the other brother said. They're probably getting ready for the global religion. They're in contact with people. They know some changes that are coming.
Well,
in the global religion, everybody's welcome because they won't be able to do what they're doing because it's going to be hate speech, and they won't survive.
You're right. No, it makes sense to me what you're saying. Makes sense what the other brother said too. It's going to be really nice to see. They're dismantling it one by one in order to attract new people. That they're not going to get people to belong to a religion that's going to be butting into your business every time you turn around. They're going to change some things because people won't want to be part of it.
Yeah, they got to get on the digital gravy train. They're going to go digital. There won't be any Kingdom Halls. They'll go completely electronic.
Yeah.
And everything will be a subscription, and they got to get on the digital gravy train.
Well, that's their goal. They're trying to get that Ramapo video studio built up in New York. Very expensive movie studio, and that's what they're heading. That's what they're trying to do. So only time will tell. But thank you, brother, for calling in. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right.
Well, there you go. So monumental changes on the horizon. And if I was an elder tonight listening into this, maybe you already know about it, but it's going to take a lot of your power away. You won't have much to do in a congregation anymore. I mean, that's what elders did before. They poked around your business. Not all of them, but that's what elders did. They poked around your business. Everything was a hard, fast rule. Don't do that. You do it, then you're spiritually weak. I mean, this is something that really was concerning to all of us, but that's all going away. So as we see in the last couple of years, they're rewriting the whole pages of history here. And consequently, it's yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, do you think this is also a prelude to the thought processes that they might allow birthdays or other types of celebrations? Because now it again feeds into the idea that it'll be a conscious matter, and there are some very compelling scriptures that may indicate that Abraham or Job or others may have celebrated some sort of birthday. They didn't call it a birthday, but where they may have celebrated some of their children's and things like that. There's some very compelling scriptures as opposed to the ones that they like to point to and draw conclusions that because these birthdays were bad, well, then it's frowned upon in the Bible, which there's no such rule of any sort. Just wondering if you thought.
What they will eventually get to that, but that would be a quantum leap right now. What they got to do is first establish, because that's going to be a shock to people. So first you got to establish that, no judging. So when they do allow for birthdays, well, remember that Watchtower said, don't judge. So some of this stuff coming down the pike is going to be pretty provocative. It's going to really get a lot of attention. But I think they got to get this article out, and then people can kind of, let it settle in a little bit and say, wow, there's some changes here. And then when they do celebrate Christmas and birthdays and everything else, it becomes some mainstream so-called Christian religion. They're going to be able to get away with it. It's unreal what these guys have done, Scott.
They're laying the groundwork. That's all.
Yeah,
It may not happen next month, or maybe it'll be 6 months or a year, but they're trying to lay the groundwork.
Oh yeah, that's what I see too, Scott. Well, thank you very much. Always good to hear from you. Yeah. Well, there you go. So there you have it. So you're not going to be spiritually weak. You're not going to be spiritually weak. Now let's not bring serious offense in here. You'll still be spiritually weak if you're going to go out and commit immorality, or if you're going to go out and find that you conked out drunk at some wedding somewhere. You're still going to have some retribution come upon you. But all of these silly little rules and all of this judgmental stuff that's happened in the Watchtower, that's going away. Now they already got the May edition, but when they study it, which will be soon, then it's going to hit the witness world, and hopefully they'll take it to heart. I'm sure there'll be some hardliners that will say, I'm not going to change, but I'm sorry. The Watchtower is saying, don't judge. Well, anyway, yes, go ahead.
Yes, Dan, how you doing?
Dan,
been
doing
a little
good.
while.
Doing good.
Good. Sound like you got a little cold tonight.
Yeah, I got a little cold tonight, yeah.
All right, yeah, I just wanted to say a thought. Do I have a minute?
Of course.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, it's kind of disgusting, honestly, Rick, to listen to witnesses now, to hear them saying, we don't have to do anything now. I'm so pissed off. When I go by a witness, they go, hey, we don't have to do nothing now. When you were in, did you think like that? Did you think, I can't wait to not do anything? Did you think, hang on, this phone is acting up a little bit here. It's not plugged in. But were you looking for a way out? When they said, do not forsake the gathering of ourselves together as some as the custom, but I'll do it all the more so as you behold the day drawing near. Didn't you feel like that was a safety net, Rick?
Yeah, you did. At one point you did, but as you start wiggling your way loose, you can hardly wait to get out the exit door,
Oh, right. But when you were in there, wouldn't you have thought it's something wrong if society said, hey, you only got to go to so many meetings a week, and by the way, we're shrinking the meetings down? Wouldn't you be offended as opposed to being like overjoyed? I'm really surprised. Like if I was in there, I would think like, what's wrong with these guys? That was our safe haven, making 5 meetings a week, making, every day of the week. Monday you're studying for Tuesday the theocratic school and ministry. Wednesday we're studying for Thursday, book study. Saturday field service, Sunday night. We were all busy and we took great pride in that. So I find it. I don't know why it pisses me off when I see witnesses on the street. They want to tell me how wonderful it is now. Wait a minute. Is it wonderful, or was it safety to keep ourselves separate from the world? You know what I mean, Rick?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's like, what are you in there? What are you in there for? when we were in there because we loved Jehovah, because we were safeguarded. We were making all these meetings. Life was good. We had our brotherhood. We used the Bible when we went out. And I'm thinking, what kind of people are left over in there? People that stand in front of a cart and don't say anything, don't preach, don't open their Bible, that say, aren't you glad we don't have to make meetings, these godforsaken meetings? I mean, it's a good thing, Rick. Don't get me wrong that they're shrinking and doing this. But I'm just appalled at how many witnesses, like my brother, my oldest brother, he's still in there and saying, Dan, it's so easy now. It's so easy. You know, I don't get it. Do you, Rick? I mean, I really believe that we were being protected from the world when I was in there, you know?
Well, Dan, that's one thing that keeps me awake at night. I don't know how people can stay in there. It just boggles my mind, especially with, well, not just in view of these changes, but in view of the, looking at the governing body and then coming on with their updates. And these guys are a bunch of buffoons. And people see them up front and close. And this is your spiritual leaders. Geez, I'd be looking for the exit door. Yeah.
The people are in just as much as denial as an alcoholic. It's the same thing. I'm going to close my eyes and pretend he didn't say that, our meetings are shrunk, that we don't have to go door to door, that we don't, they have to go door to door, but, we don't have to keep time. We don't have to do this. I would be freaking out. If I was a Jehovah's Witness, I know you were talking about it, but if I was in there, I would be thinking, something's wrong, man. Something's wrong. And all of these people talking about it and all of this, every channel you go on, you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, all these people are just, talking about, I left. And I'd be like, what the hell's going on? You walk into a Kingdom Hall and there's like nobody there. They sold your Kingdom Hall to a marijuana clinic next door. I mean, it just, I don't know, Rick, you'd have to be in some crazy, I hate to say it, but what kind of people are still left? Did the good people leave? The people that want to go?
I ask all the time, who are these people?
Yeah. Isn't it an interesting thought? Who are they? They don't have any love when I meet them. They tell me to get out of their face. They like, we don't want to talk to you. I'll ask them a simple question. I'll say, do you guys think, the governing body's nuts? Well, it's probably not a good question to ask, but I'll say, do you think Stephen Lett's nuts? Do you think Tony Morris was nuts? And they want to get out of here, but I'll throw something back at them that they said. But I'm just surprised, like you just said, forget your name. What is your name again? The gal?
That's Pixie.
It's Pixie.
Pixies. Yeah, you say, what kind of people are these? You ride down the road, hey, Dan, it's easy, man. And now we believe in Jesus. What the hell? What happened to Jehovah? Well, now we're turning more into Jesus. And I'm like, guys, I don't know what they're drinking. I wonder who they are. Here's the thing. When you left, Rick, I left Mixie, there was a level of integrity. When that prophecy didn't come through, that generation prophecy come through, I said, you're a damn liar. I was holding to that. I was like, I wasn't waiting for the damn, I mean, I was looking forward to this generation not passing away 70 or 80 years from 1914. But when it didn't go, there was a level of integrity in me that said, you're not going to do this to me, you liars. What's wrong with the people that are still in there? I mean, yeah, say they're brainwashed, but like Rick, there's too much out there now. How can you just close your eyes? Do you not even care? Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird?
Yeah, it's very weird.
Here's a fun one. Here's a real fun one. The fiction show, The Handmaid's Tale. It talks about these women and they are in a cult and they have to wear these red dresses. And there's two groups. The lower class women have the children, the upper class women don't. Well, it's kind of like Bethel, and the writer was from New York, and it's called Gilead. And the funny, watch the trailer of The Handmaid's Tale. You don't have to see the whole show. But about the same time that the witnesses said beards are allowed, as if a man is allowed, it's natural, the characters on The Handmaid's Tale that are the patriarchal rulers all got beards.
Oh my God. Oh my God, that's so strange. You know,
It's wild. It's wild. Once you see this stuff, you can't unsee it.
no. You know, can I say one more thing before I get off? I know other people want to talk yet. But how do those guys, I don't get this. How do those guys lie? How does governing body lie? Like Stephen Lepp, not care. I mean, the whole world knows he's a liar. The whole world watches him reading a teleprompter and lying. And what do we think about when we see a liar? We go, oh, that's a liar. And we go, oh, isn't that disgusting? We're really upset when we see a liar. When we see a liar, we go, oh, God, you know, oh, he's lying. And he's bald-faced lying. And I think, Rick, guys, how can these people watch the governing body lie? We're growing. We're getting bigger. We got more people coming in. How can they do it? What kind of man is in there? A man that's reading a teleprompter that knows nothing else but to lie to people, doesn't care about their life, doesn't care about the false prophecies, doesn't care that they threw away their whole life for the organization, doesn't care that they never got to play football, never got to live their life, and then throw them away like trash. What kind of man? What kind of men? You got to ask. You got to say, these are evil men. I'm sorry.
When we were good little witness children, didn't they teach us who was the father of the lie?
Yeah.
Dan.
It breaks. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hey, I'm glad to talk to you. You know, I love how you get fired up, you know, and you nail everything. You really do. But, you know, you made a comment that, you know, that you don't understand how these people are still going to the meetings and still, you know, believing in what they believe. The difference is, the reason why you can see it is because you have waken up from the indoctrination that you were in. The ones that are still going to congregation, they haven't waken up yet. You got to put yourself in their place. They're full of fear. These people that go to the Kingdom Hall, they're dramatized. They're full of fear. They're being controlled. And you know, try to put yourself in their place. They don't know what to do. They're seeing these changes. You know, when they go home, they talk about these changes. They're not going to do it at the Kingdom Hall because they don't want to be called out on it. You know, a lot of people are going or leaving the Kingdom Halls. You know, you have people having to live double lives. Can you imagine what that's like, living a double life? They want to get out of the Kingdom Hall, but they can't because their family's there. So a lot of the witnesses that are staying there is because they're being socially forced to have to do that. So, you know, and I agree with you. You ask, you know, you always ask yourself, you know, why are these people still going there? And it's because they're not awake.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you know what's weird is for us, it's out. It's so depraved now. We've been out. You know, I've been out over 20 some years, but it's like it's so changed. You know, it's like when I go on Rick's show, I get shell shocked when I hear the news. When I hear it, I'm like, what are they doing? What? They're wearing pantsuits. They're wearing this, and I think, but like you said, they're just not woken up. It's a miracle that we woke up. You're right. But it is hard to fathom with all the news, all the, you know, pedophilia, the stuff they're having to address, and, you know, Kingdom Hall. Like I said, if you actually saw your Kingdom Hall sold to a marijuana clinic or sold to a church, Babylon the Great, the World Empire, False Religion, if you ever saw, hey, our church just got sold to further Babylon the Great, to further Babylon the Great, I think I would take a dump. And I would be like, something's wrong. I mean, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I've been out, but I'm like you said, I imagine they don't know what to do. There's so much change. And Rick has said before, too, like their head's got to be spinning, but it's mind-boggling, isn't it?
I really believe that a majority of the brothers and sisters that are attending the meetings, I think they're desperate for some kind of help. And they're not gonna get help from going to the elders. You know, they're gonna say, well, I need to talk to you. I need some help. I'm confused about this. What's going on? Why are we making these changes? They are forced to not be able to do that, because if they do, then they're going to be labeled as an apostate, and then they're going to be socially outcast, and they don't want to do that because they're afraid of what's out in the world, because they're taught that it's a bad place. They are afraid to go out in Satan's world, so they hang on to whatever it is they have, the little bit that they have, the little bit of hope that they have, and they hang on to it. And so, I believe that you can. I believe that there's a way that you can reach Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's by showing them sincere love and caring, and if you attack them and say, if you talk to Jehovah's Witnesses and you say, well, y'all doing this, and what about this? If you attack them, they're going to retrieve, because they're afraid. Right. They're afraid of everything. But if you can approach a Jehovah's Witness in a very kind and very loving way, they're going to open up to you.
Well, you got a good perspective. Where you're at right now is really good, because you understand. You know what I mean? You can kind of feel them where they're at. That's really good. He's absolutely right. And you're absolutely right, by the way. But where's that?
What'd you say?
My wife said you're absolutely right. She yelled over my shoulder, and I agree. But where's your accent from? I noticed you got a little bit of Southern in there.
Well, I am 100% Cajun, French Cajun, and I born and raised in the Bayou, way up on the coast, 40 miles away from New Orleans. And I lost a lot of my French accent. I used to. My whole family I was born in a fishing town, in a Cajun fishing town, and I did a lot of traveling, and I picked up accents a little bit, kind of, I don't know, just from being around other people. But I'm from the South, and it's Cajun, French Cajun accent, hey, Southern.
Cool. Well, you're going to be a great asset. You're a great asset to this show, because just your perspective, trying to understand them, seeing it from their point of view, loving them. Do you want to say something, Angela? Angela wants to say something.
I'm just so glad you came on here to say this tonight, because me and Dan, truthfully, we don't like to criticize or cut down people, because we believe that causes further division. And sometimes, we just get caught up in it. But you really brought it back to exactly what we do believe, because you don't win anyone through any other way but through love. And that's how me and Dan got out of our, the cult. And it was because of that unconditional love that they had towards us. And for them to even come on and listen to us criticizing them, you're right, it's going to draw them or push them away. They're not going to even want to ever listen again to the fixed screens or anything else that's on, because they're not feeling safe. And so we have to create a safe space, and we've got to be in that place of love at all times, and not have the gossipy, critical tongue and judgment. That has all got to go away for all of us, or we'll never win them, or anyone for that matter. This world is in a serious place right now of judging one thing after the other, and every kind of aspect of life. And we all got to make a promise to ourselves that we just don't want to be a part of that anymore, because it's just going to teach our children to be hateful and further divide the world. And we've just got to say no. So I love what you said. I love you. And thank you so much for sharing that tonight.
I used to be very reserved and would never speak up, but I realized go ahead.
We're not saying nothing.
So and I was always, maybe you could say maybe afraid of speaking up. Maybe I wasn't smart enough or intelligent enough or anything like that. But I've learned, I'm in my mid-60s, and I've learned in my lifetime, because the Watchtower beat you down and they keep you down. But I realized that, that I am a person that's intelligent. I am a person who's caring. And there's a guy I'm friends with right now. He doesn't know that I'm an extra witness. The way I met him, he came to my house, knocking on the door, doing the preaching work. And I started talking with the guy. And I'm not trying to be deceptive and trick the guy into anything, but I have to keep the conversation and the friendship that we have kind of neutral. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we'll go have coffee. This guy's 70 years old, and he's been a witness all of his life, and he's been an elder for like 40 something years. And we'll go to the donut shop, and I'll go empty-handed with no Bible, no phone, and no computer. And he comes and he's prepared with a computer. And every time that we have a conversation, and I ask him a question, he whips out that computer and he goes straight to jw.org. And so I asked him one day. I asked him one day. I said, can we put this computer aside and can we just have a man-to-man, eye-to-eye conversation about the Bible? And when you can do that and then use the Bible, that's the way that you can connect with them, And using the Watchtower Bible, the Silver Bible, and I've been talking to this guy for maybe 2 years, and it really emotionally really upsets me.
Yeah.
And I can see where he's crying out for some kind of help. I can see it. I can see it in the conversation that we have. His whole family's in his daughters and his wife, and he's so indoctrinated and been into this religion all of his life that even when you show him something that he can understand, that is truth, he doesn't know how to handle it. He doesn't know what to do with it. And so I believe that that's the people that's in the congregations now. You've got a lot of those people. I would have to say, I don't know, percentage, maybe 60% that want to get out, but they need help to be able to get out. They looking for help.
Capacity or something. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks God there's all of our personalities, to help out, you know what I mean? Because everyone hears it a little differently, everybody, is valuable in their own way when it comes to communication, you know what I mean?
And sometimes
I tell you what happens, Dan. That book I told you about, Snakes in Suits, it's in the business section, and it explains how corporate CEOs are narcissists. But the other end of that are the people that are in the cheap seats in the Kingdom Hall, the older people. Once you pass about 60, it becomes really hard to find a new club. And so for them, even though the blood doctrine is a danger to them and all, and even though they're confused, by some of the doctrines, if they can get a luncheon or a dinner or go out with a group, that functions for them in ways that are very important, because loneliness can kill you.
You're right, Bixie. You're exactly right.
Dan.
Well, hold on one second. This is Rick Farron with the Six Screens. Hey, what I'm going to do here, I've been doing this for 2 hours now. I've had a cold all day and very, very tired. I'm not complaining, just explaining. But I'll leave this on. I'll leave this on for right now, and just go slow with it. Make sure if you do speak up that you mute yourself when you're not on, and I'll keep this on for a while and see how it goes. And so we can kind of have you guys just talking. Now, remember, it's on the air. It's recorded. We do have a program after this that's not recorded, but but we'll keep this going because a lot of people coming in.
Program coming on, Rick, right after this?
No, nothing right after this. Nope. So what we'll do?
This is when we just have our clubhouse and it's an after party, but it's not recorded. But what he's saying is he's going to keep it on and record for a while.
Yeah.
Get well, Rick, and have a good McKellen and get some sleep.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some. I'm very tired today, so I'm gonna get some sleep, get better early. There'll be no Six Screen Sunday tomorrow, so I just want people to know that we'll be back in 2 weeks. So no Six Screen Sunday tomorrow. But thank you all for coming in. We really appreciate it. Well, thank you. Our audience is really, really growing, but I do have to get some sleep and get some rest. So thank you very much, everyone, for commenting. But I'll leave this on for a while. Thank you. Bye now.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, you do. Good night.
So how are you doing? How you doing?
No, what do you mean?
Are you talking to us or the other guy?
Yeah, and Angela, how you doing?
Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. We're just getting settled into our house. We traveled for about, I don't know, 3 months, on the road.
Where did you choose to stay? Where are you now?
Idaho. We came back to Idaho. We went to the south. It's a climate we probably would have had a hard time adjusting to, because when you're in the west, it's sunshiny a lot. There's not a lot of rain. There's no thunderstorms.
Nice and dry where you are.
Yes. And we realized you don't realize until you travel. Everyone, had an idea. Like, we had friends that wanted to come to Arizona, South Carolina, Michigan. And so we thought, let's just go visit these places. So we spent some time in Arizona. We actually were going to buy a house there, and it fell through in Prescott. And it was at 5,000 feet. So they had 4 seasons. And
We even kind of wrote one up trying to. We wrote one in South Carolina.
We wrote one in South Carolina. It fell through.
In Michigan, we were working on an offer in Michigan, but God just did not. It was not meant to be.
It wasn't meant to be, and there was something about, I just felt like my kids live here, and at the time, it's not like we're fighting or anything. They're just busy with their life, and we thought, well, let's just go off for a while and maybe a few years and do some other things. But like I said, it was cultures. It was different cultures when we were out there, different type people, and we just couldn't relate so much to the South. When you come from the North, you're a Yankee. First thing they told us in South Carolina, we're in a restaurant, and they said, if you visit, you're a Yankee. If you stay, you're a damn Yankee. And I thought, I already did all this in Texas. I lived in Houston 10 years, and you got to say y'all. I thought, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not playing that. You know what I mean, Victor? You know exactly what I mean.
You got to go back and get your own lane,
Hey Dan, I'm gonna hang up, Dan, and I hope to talk to you again.
Right.
Yeah, let's talk again. You got a great perspective, and like Angela said, both of us came out of Jehovah's Witnesses. I've said it before, we had a show because somebody loved us, and I said, what is that? And Angela did too. What is this thing they're showing me? They're showing me love. And love speaks to another part of the body. It speaks to the soul. And the mind, you can't reason with a person. But we've had people here. I'll just say this real quick. What was your name?
You can call me John Terrio.
John Terrio. But we walked into a church one day, and a lady come running up. I heard you were Jehovah's Witness. How do you get them out? And their daughter was studying with a gentleman, and next thing you know, she's like, I'm not celebrating Christmas, I'm not doing this, I'm not celebrating. And they left, and the husband was furious, and the wife was crying, so they asked us to go over for coffee. And they said, the man's like, he's going to tell them all about Jesus, and he's going to tell them about all this. I said, don't waste your breath. Jesus is the Son of God, he's not God, they're not going to believe it. They've already, read the scriptures to her, and, blah, blah, blah. He was very angry. And she said, what do I do? And I said, make him a cake. Make him his favorite meal. Have him over for dinner. Give him hugs every time you see him. And the lady goes, I'll do it. And the guy's a guy, he was so pissed. He was so mad. And so they went back to Florida. We were in Idaho. They went back to Florida, and the lady wrote and says, okay, I'm making him his cookies. I brought him over some cookies. I made him a wonderful dinner. And then one time he needed a little bit of money, I don't know, $400 or $500, and his dad gave him some money. She flew all the way back to Idaho, came to our house, sat on the couch crying, and said they're both out. And she said it worked. The love is what transformed them. The love is what changed them. The love is what spoke to them. Because they think it's only them. So when somebody from the outside shows them love, it speaks to a part of them that says, why would Jehovah kill these people if they're so loving? And I mean, it was the most beautiful thing.
And she came 2,000 miles on an airplane to tell us that they were both out.
Now, for me and my religion, Worldwide Church of God, which is part Jehovah's Witness, part Jewish, is how I kind of put it. They don't really exhibit any real love. That's not, at least not what I experienced. It was always judgment. If you're doing good and you're obeying God's laws, then you're good. And if you're not, well, if you're not, you're hated, and they're not happy with you, and you might get kicked out. If you are doing it, then you're just doing what you ought to be doing, right? And so there's just no love. It's always waiting for you to do something wrong. And so when I experienced this woman who was in a completely different religion that I considered to be of the world, and she loved me unconditionally when I didn't believe it, when I was not kind to her for 2 years in a row at her Christmas event, because I didn't believe in Christmas, but she loved me. And she said, Angela, come in the bathroom, and I want to show you something. So she was so kind, and I went in there, and she goes, here, honey, take a bottle of Charlie perfume out of the cabinet, gave it to me, and said, oh, no, it's not a Christmas present. I just want you to know that we love you, honey, and we're so glad you're in our family. And she meant it. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, you know, where I came from, if you're bad and you don't do what you're told and you're not fitting in with the tribe, you're out, you're hated. But here she's loving me when I've made her life miserable for 2 Christmases. And I was like, what is this? And I felt like an answer came inside my soul. And it said, this is the love of God. And I'm like, yes, that's what it is.
Changed her forever.
And I tucked that away, and it began to change, unravel my entire life.
Yep.
I hear you.
And she's Episcopalian.
I had Baptist neighbors that fed me when I was a child, when I was a teen. And in college, I had a Methodist neighbor that fed me.
Wow.
They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that.
No.
Anyway, John, we know you got to go if you need to, but we thank you again for everything. It's gone.
Unconditional love.
What?
I was thinking about you, Angela.
You are? I think about you.
You said something about nail polish, and I had cherries in the snow nail polish from 1957. And I thought, Angela's blonde like me. She needs this cherries in the snow. So.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite. That's one of my favorite colors.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that the best?
Oh, on my nails, I like that color.
I don't wear it myself.
Yeah, I put the paint on a nail every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay, maybe not.
But no. But where my comment came from, my strong comment was, I met some witnesses. It was actually the guy that turned me into the governing body. When I asked, did we pass a prophecy? I asked him, I said, hey, Bill, did we just pass up a prophecy? And he turned me into the governing body, and they put me on apostate watch because I was preaching that the world was going to end 70 or 80 years from 1914, which was the late 80s, early 90s. And so I saw those guys. I told Angela, we were in Colorado Springs, and I said, one day we're going to drive around this corner, and we're going to see Bill and Charisse. And we had been driving around that corner for 20 years. We go by my old house down in Colorado Springs, go up to Garden of the Gods. I drove around, and there was Bill and Charisse after 22 years. And they came out and gave me a big smile, said they love me, come on up, took pictures, gave me pictures of us when we were, younger. And they continued to tell me for 2 hours how easy it was to be a Jehovah's Witness. And I said, so you guys don't do this and you don't? No, it's wonderful. And we get to wear dress. And I said, you don't think nothing about being 60 years old and they just now told you could wear pantsuits? No, Jehovah's wonderful. Jehovah's wonderful. And so I asked him a question about Tony Morris, and I asked him a question about Stephen Leck. And they went quiet. It wasn't nastily said to him. It wasn't sarcastically said to him. It was just a question. What do you think about this that he said? It was kind of like this. We don't talk about that.
Oh.
And they just told me, and they never called me again. And that's all I asked. But the love was so shallow. There was no love. It was a pretense, and their whole thing was to get me back to the meeting. Are you going to come to the meeting tomorrow? It was on Saturday, and I said no. And they said, well, we'd love to have you back to the meeting. And it was all smiles. But when I didn't, that was the end of us. And so I had that little reunion, but it was so hard. That's why I was saying, like, what kind of people are they? Like when that prophecy passed for me in the late 80s, I was pissed. I was like, what do you mean we got new information? New information from what? Jehovah's been speaking to us. What do you mean new? I don't know. Somehow my thinking cap was on. So I couldn't understand. And I met other witnesses too when I was walking down the street, because a lot of witnesses lived on this particular street. And they're like, man, come on back. It's so easy now. And when I was in there, I didn't want easy. I wanted to be protected from the world. I wanted to make the meeting. So, you know, and all these things. So I was shocked. I was like, what do you people, did this ever mean anything to you? Did this ever mean anything to you people? Like, you didn't think making 5 meetings a week was protection to keep you separate from the world? You didn't, you just think.
You and I have missionary zeal. I get it. I get what
you get it. You get it. So that's why I was like, what kind of people, is there any integrity in you? Is there any, I understand they have fear. I understand, you know, that they're brainwashed, but at a certain point, it's like, I don't know, I don't want to say nobody home, but it's like, it's just like, man, it's just so shocking to hear people say it's so easy. And I asked them about the Kingdom Halls too. I said, here's going to blow you away, Pixie. But I looked at Sharice and I said, Sharice, what do you think about the Kingdom Halls? I mean, they're selling the marijuana clinics. You know what she said? Oh, Dan, they're just buildings. No, they're not. They were dedicated to Jehovah.
We didn't want it that way.
Right. We were dedicated
to Jehovah. But then when I was a teen and I said to the elder, well, you're going to sell the Kingdom Hall? He said, well, dentist, it might be a dentist office. I said, well, wasn't it dedicated to Jehovah? He says, no, it's just a building. So I got that one too.
Gotcha. But her attitude was, would you stop it? That's what her attitude was. Would you stop it? And I was like, no, like, that's something to talk about. If I saw a building, now think about this. I know I've said it before and you said it, Pixie, but to think that we could not go into another church for your own brother's wedding. I remember my brother, I went to his wedding and he was going in this Catholic thing, holding his daughter's hand, the Catholic thing, and I'm taking pictures and his wife's there and he's laughing. I said, I'm going to send him to the elders. You know, you're in this Catholic church. But then you think about this. They sell the building to a Catholic church. Not only, you know, I'm like speechless. Like if I was in the Kingdom Hall and we built this Kingdom Hall, we built it in 2 days, and I remember sitting there on the floor and them doing the prayer without any seats, and they said, Jehovah built this, Jehovah blessed this, Jehovah's Spirit was with us, and thank God, Jehovah, thank you, Jehovah, for the money, for the people to help. And then you see it a few years later being occupied by Jehovah's enemy, Babylon the Great, the world of, you know, there you go. It's like something should click. And that's why, you know, you and me, Pixie, were probably saying that, like, what is
other people
wrong?
have asked these questions, Dan. You have a thinking pattern and I have a thinking pattern, and sometimes they're very similar. So other people have asked these questions. Now, when I was in my 20s, I lived in a beautiful city. I lived there for 8 years. And in this beautiful city, I could not afford, I probably could maybe now, but at that time, I could not afford a condo in this building that I wanted. It was so beautiful. It looked like a Gothic church, but it had been a synagogue. And it had a stained glass star in this stone building that was huge. And I thought, I would love a tour of these condos. Where does that window, which condo has that window, you know? And we start talking like, well, wait a minute, if that was a synagogue, well, the Most High God was there. Is he still there? I mean, you know, we're in our 20s and we're thinking this stuff and we're like, wow, we had one of those condos, you know. And this happens even with really beautiful buildings that are much finer than Kingdom Hall construction.
Oh yeah, I know. That's amazing.
but you're right. There is something about it. There is. I don't know what it is. What do you think it is? You mentioned thinking patterns, but
I don't know. Sometimes I know that some churches in the American South are on ley lines.
Oh, on ley lines. Well, you know something weird? When we went down, now where I live in the West, there's a lot of Mormons, but when you go further west, there's a lot of spirituality. When you get out in the West, like New Mexico, spirituality, Arizona, spirituality.
Yes, I've been all over. I've been to all 48, but I haven't been to Alaska and Hawaii. So I know.
Okay, but what's weird was we went back and we were visiting Connie and Rich, and we went by some of these mega churches, Southern, and man, we were like, they had so many people. They probably had 3,000 to 5,000 people at each service. They had police letting them out, letting them go by, and I'm like, golly, what are they talking about in there? You know, so I got curious. You know, I thought I got to go in there. I got to see what they're talking about. Are they scaring the people? Or, and it was just the same message. The guy's like, do you know he died for you? And I'm like, oh my God, he died. He paid me. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, whoa. And I mean, this place had like, I don't know, 25, would you say, it was like Christmas trees? It was at Christmas. And we were like, people are coming here. Like, it was like so far behind. Yeah, they were pieces of junk and unworthy and ungrateful. And I'm going, what the hell? Like, and I won't go into that part. Nobody had a core rig. Let's just say that, okay? Nobody had a core rig. It was way back, you know, percolators. But we were like really surprised. We were like, you know, we went to some people's house and they're like, yeah, I like percolated coffee. And I'm like, cool. I said, that's really cool. You know, then we went to another house and there's no core rig. And then the hotel had it and it percolated. And we're like, and the hotel's like, out here, everybody has core rigs. They give you a couple of decaf and a couple of regulars and a coffee thing. So it's amazing when you travel. And man, it was Baptist. In fact, we were warned when we came out there. They said, we just want to tell you, you know, this is the Bible Belt, the realtor. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, so be careful what you say out here because, you know, people are really sensitive. And I said, sensitive to what? They said, well, you know, I've heard you make a couple comments about religion or something. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, you know, be careful out here because this is serious Bible Belt. But man, it was amazing. It's like the growth was stunted or something. Do you know what I'm saying, Pixie?
Well, you know, there's something called the third place.
Okay.
There's books about it. And it's okay if people have a 12-step and they're sober, that's great too. The 12-step meeting can be a third place. The corner bar can be a third place. The town square can be a third place. The library could be a third place. We're losing these cultural third places.
Yeah.
And we go to the shopping mall. You know, the kids used to be mall rats at the shopping mall. That was the third place. They weren't there to shop.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good
So we're losing these third places. So all we've got left are these houses of worship because we don't have the movie house anymore. So we can be at home watching a movie, which is great. And there's a lot of free movies on YouTube. I mentioned that one tonight, What a Way to Go with Shirley MacLaine. It's free, it's fun. So we can watch What a Way to Go.
What do you mean by third place?
Is it called What I Want to Know?
What a Way to Go.
I have to write that down. We like Shirley MacLaine. We love your movie Out on the Limb.
Oh, this is with Gene Kelly. It's wonderful.
Okay. Is it an older movie or is it new?
It's a movie. It's 1962 or something. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. You'll love it.
What's it called again? What Way to Go?
What a Way to Go.
That sounds really good. We've been wanting to watch a good movie. Well, that's interesting.
But this idea of a social third place is disappearing, and it used to be a thing in the village. You have the square, you have the town events, and so these mega churches are pulling them in. But I think you're aware that they want to have this one religion soon.
Yes. Well, what's happening here, Pixie? You know, they got a massive Mormon influence, right? But all of a sudden, mega churches are coming in here. And we're like, what the hell's going on in Boise? Like, we drove by this church the other day, and it was called Life Church. And anyway, we drove by and we said, what the hell are they building next to it? It looked like a baseball stadium. And wow. It goes, that's part of the church. I go, that's not part of the church. And sure enough, it was part of the church. Massive. There's not even nowhere to park. They need a parking deck. So we drive down Chinden, and there's another church called Rock Church. And I said, and Rock Harbor, and I told Angela, I said, let's just go in there and see what the hell they're talking about. Like, we literally drove around for 20 minutes in a parking lot that held 5,000 cars, and there was nowhere to park. Police. And we're like, what is the hell is going on? Mega church, have awakened churches on every corner, every church is, and then we realized it. So I told
I want a baseball church. That sounds good.
Well, you know what we did? We went inside. We said, we got to go inside. I said, I'm going in there. I got to know what's going on. So we got on, you won't believe it. We got on like a little trolley bus. And the guy goes, oh, just jump on in. We'll give you a ride up to the front door. We're like, cool. So we go in, typical music, typical major cameras. This place was like Billy Graham style preachers. Mm-hmm. They're bringing in the best of the best, and we realized what was happening. Boise is very naive. They don't even know who Billy Graham is. Because when we were in Denver and Billy Graham died, every Costco had a Billy Graham page.
Somebody's phone cutting out.
I don't know.
It's a little mumbly.
How's mine? Is it bad? Does it sound okay? Is that okay? Anyway, I'll just finish up. So I think Boise is naive. They're bringing in the big boys and they're raking in the millions. This place is growing. California's moved in here. And
A pal of mine has a comedy club there.
Oh, really?
You're good, man. She runs a comedy club. You'll enjoy it.
Okay, cool. What's the name of it?
I think it's called the Comedy Club at the End of the Universe or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I wrote to them one time. I think they even told me they'd let me do a gig there.
Go and do a gig there. There's nice people there.
Dan would be so fun and funny. Hey, Pixie and Dan, I just want to say one thought I had. You know, I had a friend that was just the most amazing girl, and she had been a Seventh-day Adventist, but somehow her father got involved in something really evil, and he ended up putting her through satanic ritual abuse over and over again, and a lot of crazy, weird things. She literally wrote a book about it, but she never published, and I have a rough draft. But basically, what happened to her was people that get into that, they fragment into these different parts of themselves. It's like all the same person with different, ways of coping. This part of you knows how to cope with that, and this part of you knows how to deal with that, and this part, and they fragment so that you can function in everyday life. It's kind of like a mechanism God gave us to function. This is what I got out of it. But I wondered to myself, if that's not happened and it's happening to these witnesses that are in there, like John was saying, they really do want to leave, but they don't know what to do, where to go. They can't wrap their heads around it. They just kind of push it into another zone of themselves, another fragmented part of themselves, and they know how to live in that space, and then at work they're a whole other person over here.
There's truth to that they know how to live in that subculture.
And
they know how to dress for that subculture. They know what to say. They know when the meetings are. They know, when they go out with a group. And as we age, I think it becomes very difficult. You two are so outgoing that it's easy because you like to look at different belief systems and you like to look at different social things and you like to maybe go to a comedy club or check out another church or something. Most people, and I've done that sort of thing too, most people are not outgoing like that.
Well, they're afraid. It's fear, everything's fear.
But yeah, we love doing it.
There's different personality types, and I was told I have a rare personality type.
Yeah, you are. You're definitely
and I
rare.
think maybe Dan and I might have the same one because we're outgoing, we're fearless, and there's a certain type of person, and we're happy campers. I bet you're both happy campers.
Yeah, we are. We're happy happy. We love
And most
life.
people are not. Most people are miserable on a camping trip. They don't like change. And so a lot of these people, if they're set in their ways, it's what they're gonna do.
I know. That's why I like TikTok. I've been talking on TikTok. Angela's got a TikTok channel called Wounded Women Rise Up. And then I got one called Your Wake Up Call. And I get there's about 6,000 people on there now. And what I love about it is TikTok puts you in algorithms where the people who want to hear what you have to say, you know, reciprocate. And so we've got a big TikTok channel, and I literally get hundreds of comments. Like today, I think I'm up to 300. Some of my videos hit 22,000, some hit 3, some hit 1,800. Doesn't matter. But what I love is people calling and saying, my God, what you said changed my life, because on those channels, I talk about spirituality. And I don't say mine's the only way. I just say, this is my experiential journey. Here's some of the books I've written. And we have a good time. And there's nobody beating us up. There's nobody hammering us over the head, because it only sends it to the people who want to hear it. It takes a little while for TikTok to acclimate you to your audience, but eventually it's 100% pure, wonderful feedback.
I also think it's great that you all have both written books. I need to finish mine.
Oh,
I
I
haven't written a book yet.
What are you writing about?
I don't know yet. I'm going to sit down and do it.
Well, you know what we did? We wrote about our journey. I wrote the shock, me and Angela wrote Eyewitness, the shocking insider story about Jehovah's Witnesses. And it was an experiential journey of me growing up as a witness and then leaving. And it was very well read. It was a New York publishing company that and anyway, it talks about how I started to wake up, the voice of discontent. I was getting angrier and didn't know why. Anyway, I left. And then we had a massive transformation in what I call the surrendered state. So we wrote Surrender, the Key to the Kingdom Within, and then Your Kingdom Within. And then after that, as I started studying different religions, I got some different perspective, and then we wrote The Divine Order of Alchemy, The Ancient Secret to Union with God. And then right after that, we wrote Ye Are Gods. Right after that, we wrote How to Heal the World. Right after that, we wrote Whispers of Wisdom. And we wrote a book called What's the Magic Money, which was a really cool book on realigning with prosperity and that sort of thing, how it's supposed to be more natural than forced. And then Angela wrote, what's the one you just wrote? Awakening from Unconscious Resentment in the Life, what is it? This last one, she's looking at it. But we,
When Life Hurts.
When Life Hurts, and it's all kinds of spiritual things. And
I think that's tremendous that you've done that many.
Yeah, we love it. We talked about them. We talked tonight. We were on live. We were on TikTok Live, and we talked for 2 hours. And you know what was cool, Pixie? We got to talk to a Muslim, and he was saying, "We love you." He said, "This isn't BS." He says, "Let me read you out of our Quran. Let me read you what it says. If you kill one man, you've killed every man on the earth." And he shared, and he said, "This is a lie." He says, "I drive truck. I live in Oklahoma. I love everybody. You know," and it was beautiful. And all the TikTok people were chiming in. And one guy says, "Oh, this is a fake. You know, this is not a real guy." Even yeah, he was a witness.
You guys need to call me next week sometime. You can get my number from Fran and Joe, because we'll talk publishers.
Okay.
Hey, Christy, Daniel also wrote. Daniel also wrote Secret Brainwashing Techniques of Jehovah's Witnesses, 5 steps to escaping the web of JW indoctrination. That's also on there.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it.
I'd let you know I was here.
Dallas.
Hi, Dallas.
Well, it's great to hear from you, Diane Angel.
Oh, good to hear from you too.
And also, whoever other guest is here, great to hear from her as well.
Pixie, yes. It's always great to hear from Pixie.
It's another lady other than Pixie, isn't there?
I don't know if there's someone else on there besides Pixie. I know Pixie's on there.
And that came out of the web of JW?
Yes, yes. It was secret brainwashing techniques of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I have all these people that are stuck in webs the whole screen is webs and people are stuck to it, and then 5 steps are escaping the web of JW indoctrination. It was just
and how that prison of the witch.
Would you like for our listeners what the 5 steps would be?
Let me see what they are. Let me see what I got. You have my glasses. Let me see what I got here. I don't remember what I even wrote.
No, that's all.
Let's see what we got. What are 5 steps?
Exactly like what, or do you need these ones?
Okay, let's see. Let's see. And just give me my quads, my glasses. Let me see. I said I got chapter 1, a brief history of Jehovah's Witness Watchtower Society, and then I've got defining the web, what the web is, early life inside the web, and then the first stages of facing reality and coming out of denial. And I got majoring and minors, getting the survival tools. So it's basically about the step-by-step. But here's the main thing, I'll tell you. And what I usually talk about is very controversial when I'm helping people. It's kind of like, here's the thing, guys. If somebody had a Bible study with you and you have no knowledge of the scripture, and they say, do you know what God's saying is? And you say no. They read you Psalms 83:18. And men may know that God's whose name alone is Jehovah. And they say, do you know it says alone? It doesn't say him and Jesus. Then they read you about a Trinity and you read about this. Well, if that's all you ever know, then you would believe that is so. Because it's a tapestry. Witnesses take you into a tapestry of understanding that perspective. Jehovah's name is all important. If you go into the Mormon church, it'll be about covenants and doctrines. They'll show you why God had a prophet, why God still has a prophet, who their prophet is today. Why would God leave us without a prophet? He had Moses, he had this, all the way down to our day. Evidence that God has a prophet is the Book of Moroni. And so you would, if you didn't know anything, you'd easily be indoctrinated by Mormonism. If you were a Christian, they'd say, well, right here, God said he sent his son would become God, Jesus is God, you know, and you would be under that ideology. So partly in the book, I say, you've got to challenge. This is crazy, guys, and I know nobody likes it, but you'll actually challenge. You'll ask yourself, where did the Bible come from? Because if you believe everything is inspired of God and beneficial, then where do you go? The Mormons are building massive, they build 3. Go ahead.
For myself, I don't even engage in doctrinal discussion, argument, and debate anymore. I make a joke and I say, my name's Pixie and I'm no longer a preachaholic.
I love that. And you know what I love too? The one that people say now, I love it. They say, who are you? And they say, I'm a human being. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, what are you?
Right, but that's one picture that you had, no longer preachaholic.
I'm concerned with the fact that the blood doctrine is a danger, and the fact that things that are legal in this country that the witnesses say you can't do. Now, I don't think adultery is a good idea. I'm totally opposed to it. It's covetousness. But under U.S. law, it is not illegal. I'm opposed to cigarettes. Under U.S. law, it is not illegal. So they are telling people, don't wear this, don't do that, don't see an R-rated movie, don't smoke a cigarette. Those things may not be it may be good advice in a way, but it's not illegal under U.S. law.
Right.
And the blood doctrine is a danger. So that's where I'm coming from. Because we have the First Amendment, we can believe in anything we want in this country. If you want to worship a purple pie plate in this country, you can do it.
And I agree that the cult, it imposes its arbitrary rules. It's like you're under Sharia. It is a police state, like you're under Sharia law.
It's like Sharia for women. It really is like Sharia. It really is.
Like being under the Afghanistan Taliban.
That's right.
So that's why I don't any longer do as my dad could do. He could do that Bible thing where his fingers did the walking, and he could debate the witness position, he could debate the Baptist position. He knew his Bible, but I don't even go there. I say, okay, this is a danger. Let's get you out of the danger if you want to, but you even have a right to stay in a crazy thing.
You're right. We don't either. And like I said, the only way I'll talk is if somebody's hurting or somebody needs a perspective outside, because you know why? There's no sense, because you're going to believe it like a witness. You're going to believe it as long as you believe it. You're going to be a whatever as long as you, if you haven't looked at anything beyond and you don't want to look at anything beyond, then why would I interrupt your sleep? Or I shouldn't even call it sleep, because that sounds judgmental. Why would I even interrupt you? You know, make sense?
Well, I didn't realize how courageous I was to leave at, I guess I was 24. And I said on Thursday, I'm leaving, I'm going to college, goodbye. And some young witness brother that I didn't even know his name, he never introduced him by name, he says, well, you can marry me and stay at the Kingdom Hall. I'm like, I didn't even know your name, goodbye.
Wow, that's amazing you were able to go to college. Man, that's
it was very helpful.
I'm happy for you.
My dad told me he was proud of me when he finally told me he was 90.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I know Constance went to college too.
But I worked corporate so long that I was able to care for both of them.
Wow.
If I hadn't had that, and the college seemed expensive to me at the time, but if I hadn't had the college, I couldn't have had the jobs I had, and then I wouldn't have had the wherewithal to be able to take care of them.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm jealous of people who got to go to college. You know, I used to run around Fort College.
Doing care was very hard, and it was many, many years, but it didn't bankrupt us because I had money set aside, and my dad had a good insurance that they don't have for everyone.
Wow, what kind of care did you do?
So I couldn't get back with my parents at the end, you know?
Yeah, what kind of care did you do?
I did long-term, round-the-clock care for both of them.
Oh, wow. That's a hard job, man.
For years, not just the hospital.
Wow. That's self-sacrifice. Isn't that crazy? That you went to college and then you sacrificed your whole life for your family.
Well, I did corporate for 20 years. I had a life. But I didn't talk to them too much at that time. They didn't shun me, but my mother, before she died, she says, well, they told us to harden our hearts. So there were persons trying to keep them away from me, but I was a wanted child. My family, my parents and I, we were pretty good. There was a lot of days when we didn't see eye to eye, but we did pretty good.
Wow. That's amazing.
I'm happy for you getting to go to college. I'm so happy for you.
College is work. College is not a party. And
it was about education and learning.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people that were in the program I was in that stayed in the bar, and they wondered why they didn't work as a reporter. Well, you're not going to finish that course, and you're not going to do all the extra that came with it. Took a lot of energy to do it. There was a lot of outside things, and then when you got into the business, it was emotionally and physically draining. It was quite the life I had for a while.
That's what I like about you, Pixie, though you're honest about that. Because some people just act like they went into college and lived happily ever after. And you know, like you said, it was hard work.
And I would have liked medical school, but I had headaches and I wasn't that strong. And I passed the interview, but I don't know that I would have had the stamina for it. And that's the one regret I have. I would have liked that course. But then when I did my parents' care, they said, well, do you want to be a CNA for other people? And I said, no. I think I've fulfilled my vow here of taking care of my parents and my fiance too, who died at 70.
Wow.
So no, I don't want to do any more of that for anybody.
Man, Pixie, geez, I didn't know that. Wow, what a
You
life.
didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, I can regale you with stories of chasing the truck for ABC News with a camera at 3 in the morning. That was the most exciting moment of my life. I'll just regale you with that.
Oh, hold on one second.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Dan, you don't.
Oh, I don't?
No.
Okay.
It's run. It's stuff.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, Pixie, I was going to tell you when you're ready. I found one little spot in Dan's book where he talks about one of the first steps in the phases was one of them was getting courage. And so he talks about just the courage to look very, very squarely at certain nudges and certain things that you're seeing. And he just kind of goes into all of that. So, you know, how you get past that indoctrination when you've come to believe these certain things, you know, these different theologies. But one of the tools is you've got to have courage. That was one of them. And then another one was just how that you've got to, phase 2 is getting out mentally and emotionally, in the process of getting out and dealing with that stage of it mentally and emotionally, that to get free from all of this, you know, so he kind of breaks that down. And so there's just different amazing tools, the things that were used. That lady that helped Dan years ago, he shares us some of the things that she said to break apart, like, for example, the courage to face the blood doctrine and Jehovah's name and break it apart, break it down, be willing to do the work. And it's painful, but when you do it, then you get unhooked because you see it from a different vantage point and it breaks it all down, but you have to like do this serious work. So Dan shares how that happened for him. And, you know, just anyway, so that's a couple of things that are in that little book about secret brainwashing techniques. There's more, but at least you get kind of the idea, you know, anyway.
That's helpful. I guess I did have courage and didn't realize it.
Yeah, for sure. You know, you do have to have some courage, but you know, if you don't have it, I say you can pray and ask God for it over and over again until he gives it to you, and he will, you know. And then there's a chapter from my book, Awakening from Unconscious Resentment, in there, talking about just understanding healthy relationships and the rules of codependency and things that you need to know to function in the world. So that's partly in that. There's a chapter of my book in there. So
that sounds very helpful. You know, I didn't realize that love is just kind of shows up and is provided. I thought you had to jump through hoops for approval all the time.
Oh God, yeah.
And I thought that until I was about 45 years old.
Wow, Pixie. I'm just now starting to get over that whole thing about, you know, just worrying about what other people think and just being my own person authentically, you know, really authentically.
That's nice point, because in the power and the organization, you had to earn, many of them, you had to earn their love.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And that's sad, except for the ones who are genuine. They who tried, not all work, but some of them, you had to earn their love, and that approval means nothing. It's you get approval if you are performing super exemplary or something like that.
Well, a lot of people, they're just there for what you can provide for them. I realized in my life, I thought there were many people that liked me or loved me, and I realize now they just came to visit so they could stay at my house and sightsee, or they just were interested in me for what they could get.
Yeah, that's hard.
What do you call gold diggers? Gold diggers.
Yeah.
We want to know Pixie so we can go to the coast and be in her house.
Oh yeah, she'll feed us maybe even, Dan. Oh man.
They just wanted to sightsee. They didn't want to see me.
Yeah, I know. You know, and it's hard too because, you know, people like you, Pixie, you want to do everything perfectly well and right, and you're capable too. You're even educated, so you know you're
capable too. Such everything you think that a child should be. I was a pretty girl and an A student and kind, and you know, got upset upset if people were hurt, and wanted everybody to be fed, and I was really such a good girl. And then you're just met with people that want to slap you in the next week, and they tell you you're not good enough. And it was a long time ago, but when you're in retirement and you can look back on some of this stuff, you say, that shouldn't have gone like that.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting learning the truth about all of that stuff. And we don't have to be perfect. That's such a crippling thing, is to feel like you have to be perfect. And if you make a mistake, you berate yourself. And inside of you, you just cut yourself down and say, what a piece of crap you are. And, God must not be very happy with me, or God must be disappointed, or the church is, God, if they find out, they'll hate me. And oh my God.
And then you say, what else did I do? You feel like you've done enough. You feel like you've gone the extra mile. You missed some meals. You put in your time. You're pressed and neat. And you're not getting praise for the things that you did that were expected for you to do. They're still saying more. Jump through another hoop. And you're like, but I jumped through twice as many hoops as anybody else in the King of the Hall.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to earn their love, and also it's a cult that makes you feel like you are a failure, but don't ever give in. Don't ever fall for feeling like you're a failure, because you're anything. You're just the opposite. You're just facing trials, and you don't need to be perfect.
You're right.
I learned to achieve. That was one thing. See, that helped me later in college, I think, because I had to jump through so many hoops young. And it helped me up,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, why as a kid in a corporate environment, you look back on that and you're like, why? Why you got little 7 and 8-year-olds in here dressed like little adults?
Yeah.
I'd say it's like children that being in the military.
Yeah.
More like it.
Well, a friend of mine was in show business, and he says, you're like that kid Marjo. Do you know who Marjo was?
Mm-mm.
He was a boy preacher.
Oh, wow.
And they made a documentary about him. And I said, well, yeah, we were like little stars. We had our little dresses and our little suits, and we had all the material adults had. It was crazy. Unless you've been there, you really can't explain being a witness kid. I read a book called Preacher's Kid that was very good.
It's
we were told, can I say something? We were told that we were good for nothing slaves. We were told all our lives we were good for nothing slaves. It's goddamn hard to be proud of anything that we accomplished because we were good for nothing slaves.
Yes, and you know what? That whole thought there is just something that's permeated into the very core of who you are. Your first 5 years of life, it's permeated into that. And so, how do you turn that around? Because what's running in the background of our brains, our subconscious mind, is always telling us, even though we don't consciously or not aware of it, it's telling us that, oh, you're never going to get that. Oh, you're just so stupid. Oh, you're just such a loser. And all these thoughts go in our minds automatically every day, day in and day out, until the day you die. I say, unless you do the work to intercept those thoughts, and it's hard work. But if you do it, then you start to feel better and better and better. And nobody wants to do the work. It's painful at first, especially.
Well, it doesn't come natural. Nobody's telling us the opposite. We were growing up, we were told that we were good for nothing slaves. Everything that we did, if we were doing the right thing, it was because that was what we had to do. If we missed the mark, we were, it was terrible. And even if we did extra and we did really good and we exceeded expectations, we were still good for nothing slaves.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. No matter what, no matter how much progress you made, you were still good for nothing slaves. So
And it's never good enough.
exactly, and that's it's tough for people to come out of it.
It is. It's not easy at
I
all.
do agree. It's very difficult. It takes time and effort to get through out of that and to gain self-respect. And
Yeah.
but don't ever give up hope you can do it, because you can make yourself a success. And children being little adults, it's like they're in the military, like children soldiers going to war, or child marriages. Pretty close to that.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
You know, I know this one book. It's by Rhonda Britton. She's got Fearless Loving and Fearless Living. She went through some horrendous things in her life, and she just had all kind of fear that was just crippling her, you know. And, you know, I don't know about you guys, but when you don't feel like you're good enough before God, or just good enough, period, you don't do good at work, you don't do good in social situations, you don't feel good about yourself because God's not happy with you. No one seems to be in your mind. You know, if they knew, then they would hate you. And just this underlying fear.
It wasn't quite that. The dynamic is, some Thursdays they tell you that you're chosen people, and God has a pillar of fire by night, and He's going to protect you and help you. Some days you feel very confident, and other days you feel like you can never do enough. But then they don't give you social skills for the office.
You know, and when that's right. They don't. I think it's interesting, that whole saying there about that you're good for nothing slaves, and what you're doing, you ought to be doing. And so that you're, you know, but what was the other one? It just had to do with it. Shoot, now I already forgot. Sorry. It was right there, but I can't bring it back. Sorry. I'm sorry, guys.
Brian from Cleveland will come back. You know, the worldly people, the world is where we live. And the witnesses were told, well, those are worldly people. Well, some people that had like an accounting business and all, they had movie star clients. This one black sister, she did great. But I would get into a work environment and I would feel like I can't accept that plain red coffee cup at Christmas time, but maybe I needed a coffee cup at work. There were all these things, and I got an etiquette book, and that helped, and I read business books, and that helped. But I'm never going to be partying with those worldly people. I don't know how to do that. I didn't know how to do that at college, which was probably protective. But I don't know how to make the kinds of connections in the office that are going to help me later. I just didn't. I was an outsider, even though I was, you know, good looking and smart and had a college and had skills. Socially,
Yeah.
I'll always be the outsider.
Yeah, and especially because it's in your mind that you know that you have the truth and they don't. You know, that's really hard.
And even after you let go of that, and you read a lot of books, and you feel like, well, I can do this thing, you still don't have the same, it's not the same key and lock to those people.
You're right.
You never learn to adapt to the world.
You never learn to adapt to the world, Dan.
And I went to my 50th school reunion. My high school reunion was magnificent. The successful half were there. I've got great friends. I got 6 or 8 really good friends from high school that I could, you know, work with, and it was cool, and it was the same. But even most of the high school kids that were in my gifted class, I didn't have a key and a lock that fit there either socially.
Right. I know.
You lost out on a lot of awesome opportunities that could have come your way if you were able to be free and be yourself.
Yes.
But you were locked
in high school. I was more liberal than most of the witness kids, but that witness kid thing is scary.
You know, even though you were well liked and respected, and that was a good memory, and that made you feel good, you definitely could have gone a lot further if you were.
I noticed, and
we all could have, I think a lot of us could have.
Why didn't I go to that Led Zeppelin concert with the 50th reunion people 50 years ago? Why wasn't I at that Led Zeppelin concert? Because that would have really cemented some social connection.
Exactly. I never went to a single high school reunion ever because I was such an outcast because I was a Jehovah's Witness growing up that I had no personal relationships with only, you know, a couple of guys. That was it. But I had no need to go, you know, because how many opportunities did I miss? You know, I think we all missed a lot of opportunities that we probably could have had. You know? Like you missed a lot of opportunities because you were very smart, and you know, I think you could have went to college, become a professor. It almost sounds like you could have been, you know, to me, it seems like you could be a professor at a friggin' prestigious college and teaching us all kinds of stuff, you know.
I agree, yeah.
Very, you know,
And you got a lot of gifts right there. Like, see, you have serious gifts. And they call the organization that called it socially stunted, crippled, and handicapped. Most, but not all of them.
Amen.
And I'm glad I have some relatives that were opposed to the truth on each side of my family. That was a blessing that most of them, that almost none of them are in.
Well, that's another thing too. You know, some of us don't have lots of relatives from both sides of the family. I only have one side of the family where I knew the relatives. Mm-hmm. So if you've got relatives on both sides, that's, you know, there's all kinds of things that happen in people's lives.
Oh man, yes. I just feel like the biggest one that shuts everybody down is just fear and shame and guilt. And you know how Pixie was saying that the church will say in one sermon, they'll say that, well, you're good, and you know all these good things about the kingdom and what you're a part of, and all these powerful thoughts that you feel. But then when you go to bed at night, you know you'll think about this that you did that nobody knows about, that you did. You know, you masturbated, you kissed a girl, you know all these fears, and you think, and I'm not going to make it in the kingdom. I'm not good enough. You know, I'm not going to make it.
I don't have a lot of guilt. And when I saw the punk artist Patti Smith, she said it was her top of her career. She's written wonderful books, by the way. And Patti Smith grew up a witness. So I'm at this punk show, and Patti Smith from the stage says, "I'm an American artist, and I have no guilt." That was a moment for me. So I don't have a lot of guilt about things. I don't have a lot of fear about things. But the school system kept saying, you should be more confident.
I have something to say.
Yeah.
And on that same wavelength. So basically, I look at it as my family. I actually was very fortunate because my family, a lot of them became outlaws, and because I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, I was one of the few that just never actually went to jail. I was protected from all that bullshit, and a lot of my family were, you know, outlaws. And I never went to see, had to go to jail because I was brought up differently. So that, that's a two-edged sword in different ways. Yours, Dixie, was, education and becoming, you could have become something special, like a professor. For me, that was just the fact that I actually never went to jail, and I succeeded that way.
You broke the family curse, didn't you? You broke the family
Exactly.
pattern. Yeah, that's a really
because that was Jehovah's Witness,
right.
And honestly, I hate to admit it, but I think it's kind of the truth.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a great accomplishment, by the way. Congratulations and good job. That's going to change the whole rest of your family's lives.
Congratulations, man.
Dallas.
It is. Congratulations.
Also, too, New York got into some labor dispute problems.
Oh, man.
Years ago, I saw this footage, and it was maybe 40 years ago now. Now they did well to move to upstate and have new buildings and all, because those buildings in New York weren't too great. But, they have unpaid labor. We don't talk about the fact that it's unpaid child labor.
Yeah. When is it going to pay up? I think they should pay up.
Because they can't have minors out there. We went door to door as kids a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's these other abuses and things that are much worse, of course. But that's unpaid child labor.
It sure is.
I'd say it's more like slavery.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, it would come into that, but it's legally it's called unpaid labor.
Wow.
Absolutely, I agree on that.
And maybe that's why they have the carts now and not the door to door, because they didn't have the miners, doing the carts.
Yeah, it's free labor. Free labor. And building Watchtower's future, like we saw, they sold off all that. They conned the brothers into signing over the lease on the Kingdom Halls. They told them, we don't want you to get sued. We want to look out for you. Then they took over all the deeds, and then they started selling them like hotcakes. And so, just the more things that I don't understand, that a thinking person can't just even grab one of them, just one of them, the Kingdom Hall.
See, that's why they didn't want us to have any education.
Yes.
What was so remarkable to me, and it was after my sweetie died, because he was an attorney. I learned a lot from him at the kitchen table, and I did have 9 weeks of First Amendment law to have a journalism degree. A lot of journalists go to law school. But when I first opened my $8 used copy of Black's Law Dictionary, you get some of this stuff in a Jordan Maxwell lecture. That Black's Law Dictionary, every word in there means something different than what we're used to in the Webster Dictionary.
Wow.
Wow. And like a corporation is a person. And that show on YouTube called The Corporation, it was made in Canada. It's worth seeing because the Watchtower is a corporation. So when they look at it, it's called The Corporation. It's on YouTube for free. I think there's 2 parts. When the Watchtower says Jehovah, they mean the corporation. Because the corporation is a person under Black's Law Dictionary.
Okay, I have a story.
Go right ahead.
So the congregation that I grew up with in New Hampshire, we went to the same Kingdom Hall for years, and then we did a renovation. We had a 2-day renovation thing, and it was dedicated by, I don't know, it was a governing body, whatever it was dedicated. But anyways, I just found out from my elder today, I was talking to him on my telephone, and he told me that our Kingdom Hall has been raised. They tore it down, and they're going to build something else. And they were using it. They sold it, and it was being used it was used as a community center. And actually, the first place that I actually voted after I stopped being a witness was actually at my old Kingdom Hall. And that's where I went and voted. Tore it down. Now they tore it down, and it's going to be something else. So anyways, I just thought I'd throw that. I just found that out today, and I thought to share it with you all. In Laconia, New Hampshire, the Kingdom Hall is gone. They're going to turn it into something else. It's gone.
It's another. It's a demolished Kingdom Hell.
Laconia, New Hampshire. That's where we have. Every year they have at Weir's Beach in New Hampshire. There's a motorcycle rally. Weir's motorcycle rally, and that's Laconia, and that's the town that is the Kingdom Hall. Just got raised.
Raised means demolished. That's what it means.
Demolished. Oh, yeah, raised, gone.
Leveled down.
There, but it's gone. Yeah. Yeah, I went there for all my life, as a kid, growing up. All my life, when I was like 6 years old, 5 years old, that's where we went, and it's gone.
That's why New York City was been there a long time. That's where the Watchtower has been for a long time till it went to Warwick. It went from the Wiccans of New York City to the Wiccans of Warwick. Is what I call it.
They got much better accommodations at Warwick. Those buildings in New York weren't too great.
The ones in New York City, as you said, I can attest to what you're saying, that they were dumps.
They were factories.
I don't know about.
They were literal factories, and they didn't have very good rooming there for the people. And the Bethel boys worked very hard there. And then Zachary was telling us about some of the other buildings and how they were much nicer. But those factory buildings weren't too great. And it was part of the upstate. It really was. I mean, if you've got a corporation and you got a lot of money and build up there by the lake, that was smart of them. But
what's taking off that building now is the Watchtower sign.
They've got quite a thing up there. But none of that, we used to teach that the Catholic Church was so rich and that they should feed the poor with some of their money and stuff. And then I found out they have Catholic charities. They do. Some of that gold does feed the poor. So I was wrong. I was taught wrong.
Well, many of us were, because they want you to be naive and helpless. That's what they want.
They do.
They dependent on their organization.
Yeah, they dumbed down their material even further. It's about second grade reading level now. It's not even sixth grade reading level now.
Elementary school is what it's like.
Very, very elementary now. It's fill in the blank. It's not even.
It's over it's over time and overdue for most who have thinking skills to get out.
I think if they need a place for new Americans to be immigrants or something, the Kingdom Hall would be good, but then it's not, because it doesn't teach them civic values, it doesn't teach voting, it doesn't teach how our government runs. So, you know, I say, who are these people? I've said that since I was about 6 or 7.
I'm thinking that the leaders count and ones who believe it so invested and believe so strongly that they're crazier the more devout they are, and the less devout, more moderate, or the least observant are not crazy-ish. So
what is a true believer? There's a book called True Believer, and lots of people believe lots of things. And as a witness, I was a true believer. I really was.
Many were, and before they woke up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It does take courage, you know, and you have to face your own mortality. We were told that we weren't going to die. Of course, the devil said that in Eden too, but that's what they had us convinced, that we're going to walk right into this wonderful world. Death is terrible. Working in hospice is sad, but we all have a personal last day.
That's why I came up with this publication called You Can Live Forever with Parasites on Earth.
That one. Oh, that's pretty good.
That's good. I've never heard that one before. I love it.
I'll be laughing.
Parasites on Earth.
It was
forever and ever.
Somewhat apostate that made that cover look like that, but I made the book cover look like that, and it looks like the real thing, but it's on an online picture.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. People ask me how, when you come out of there, and I don't joke with them. I say, you got to die. And they're like, what do you mean you got to die? And I said, everything is true. It all of a sudden becomes a fantasy. It's like your God, your everything just sort of vanishes into thin air. And they're like, what's that like? I said, well, you have no legs under you. Your infrastructure's gone. Your future plans are gone. The people you know are gone. It's like so many people have said when they come out of the witnesses, it was just like it just vanished into thin air. Isn't that weird? I mean, they come out and their families disown them, their wives, and bam, Watchtower's gone.
I'll tell you what happened for me, Dan.
Yeah.
It was exciting to go to college, but I had all these clothes and shoes I was going to take. Yeah. And I go back at Thanksgiving and all my little dresses and things are gone.
Yeah.
And I had said, like my senior year, I said, well, I'm only going to wear this in high school twice because I'm going to wear it in college later or whatever. I was like planning ahead, and all my shoes and all my clothes were gone.
Where were they?
I guess one of Mom's friends took them to a thrift, but I had these beautiful little clothes that I was going to wear.
Oh my God. Why did they do that? Because you left?
Yeah, and I said, I'll be back at Thanksgiving, and when I came back 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 9 weeks later, the clothes were gone.
My God. Oh, my God.
So I go back to college.
So sorry, I hated that.
My college room that was around. I had a beautiful room. It had a beautiful hardwood floor, and I had a bed and a lamp and a typewriter and a coffee cup and a pot to cook some rice in. And what I didn't know is that at that university, I've explained this before, at that university, the third floor of the library was the largest comparative religion collection this side of like Yale or something.
Wow.
And I had no idea because I went there for radio and television and writing and stuff. I didn't go there for religious studies. So my happy place was this air-conditioned floor of this library with all the religion of the world.
Wow.
And that was my Zen era because I had no furniture and I'm sitting on this beautiful floor and it was very, very, my little apartment was very, very Zen. And you'll appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody needs to turn off their YouTube because we can hear you in the back.
I don't have anything on except phone.
Somebody
Do I sound good in the back? Everything sound good?
You kind of, yeah, so it's not too bad, you know, it's okay.
Well,
You guys sound good.
Okay, all right.
You guys
I
sound
don't
good.
think nobody has
You sound good.
a YouTube live.
It's okay. You're just reiterating what you just said, that's all.
But yeah, so go ahead, Pixie. Yeah, so again, they sold your dresses and everything and all your stuff.
My dresses and my clothes and my shoes. And so I'm like, you know, I owned very little in that time. It was okay, you know, I washed my clothes and wore them again, but I had a whole different picture of what I was going to be wearing. And I could have used the shoes. That would have been a need and a use. But it was a very Zen time for me. And we did not have 6 screens. There was no call this number if you've left the witnesses. I thought I was the only person to ever leave the witnesses.
Well, you weren't alone, but then you later found out you weren't alone at the time, that there were others who woke up even before you did.
It was 20 years before I found out there were other people that left. Now I had a friend who had a Bible study and canceled it, so we talked a little bit. But it was a good 25 years before I met anybody that had changed their path from witness to something.
God almighty, Pixie. Same thing happened with me. When I came out, me and my ex came out together, but she got into a fight with him. She went in there and told him something about the blood, you know, that how come the people in Bulgaria get to, can take a blood transfusion and not be disfellowshipped, and over here we get disfellowshipped. And she had read an article to them about, in Bulgaria that said because they're trying to get, I don't know if you call it license in the country, but they couldn't have disfellowshipping in there because in that country they wouldn't let them have set up a religion. And so when she asked that, they told her, well, you're Eve, you not only take a bite of the apple, you've got it in the refrigerator, get the hell out of here. Anyway, we both left. But what was weird was, it was like you said, Pixie, there was nobody. I mean, I'd be driving down the road and I literally thought, because I remember that scripture that said, that's where the gnashing of their teeth and the crushing of your head's going to be under Jehovah's foot. So when I was driving away, you know how you second guess, as I were getting right around the corner, did Satan snatch me? All the second guessing you got. And so I would be driving down the road and I had a convertible, and I literally thought Jehovah's hand was going to come over the mountain and grab me out of my car and just beat the hell out of me. Then my brothers would call me and say, you're dead, boy. You're dead. Jehovah's going to kill you. So it's like Pixie said, it was hardcore. There was no Rick Barrett show to call in and say, hey, Rick, am I okay? Yeah, you're okay, along with a million other people that's on the phone line. But there was nobody. The only one that I knew was Randy Waters, Free Minds. And that's somebody that I connected with right away, and I sent him my book, and we kind of connected. But that was my only lifeline. You might not even have that, Pixie.
I didn't even have that. All I had was this library of comparative religion.
Oh, God.
And I started reading Barbara Walker, the women's secrets. Like, it was a whole dictionary of religion, but it was from a female point of view. It's still public. It's called Women's Books of Myths and Secrets by Walker. It's like a $12 paperback. You need to get that.
Okay, what's it called again? Let me write it down.
I think it's called Women's Book of Myths and Secrets. The author is Walker. And it's like a little 1-volume encyclopedia of religious terms and stuff. It's you got to read that if you haven't. So Jehovah was listed in there, so I figured that book was okay. So I read all kinds of things, and Wicca was just coming in, and the book called A God Who Looks Like Me about women in Christianity, and anything that was, and then I was vegetarian for 7 years, and I didn't have leather shoes, so I didn't buy leather shoes. And then I saw this occult book at that floor of religious books. I looked at Judaism, and then I looked at this occult book from 1876, and it had Baphomet, and I thought he was Jehovah. I read that whole book. I didn't know it was supposed to be some sort of devil, and I thought, well, to the pure, all things are pure. So that book from 1874 didn't hurt me.
I want to say something about that, Pixie, because that was one thing that we all thought was everything out there was demonic. Everything you read was
demonic. Well, this actually, I think, was. You just see that picture of Baphomet and read that whole book, and he says, after you've done this, you kill the pigeon and sacrifice the pigeon, and then you cook the pigeon and eat it. And I'm like, oh, I haven't had fried chicken in a long time. I'm like, do I eat meat or not? I mean, it was a whole different book for me. I was in a whole different place than that book.
I'm trying to ask a serious question. Was it really in Bulgaria you were allowed to have blood transfusions? Is that what you said?
Yeah, they could have it and not be disfellowshipped. In America, if they found out that you had a blood transfusion, you'd be disfellowshipped. If you went in the hall, you were disfellowshipped. I don't know. It's been 22 years since they've been out, but back then, that was a big deal. So I did, at that point, I was far enough out. A lady did share that with me. She told me that the people in Blood Liaison were leaving. And I said, why are they leaving? And she said, well, let's go on YouTube and see why. And so these people were from Bethel. And they said, we're from, I forget where it was, where they were trained, but they said, we're from so-and-so, and we were trained at Watchtower, and we were with the Blood Liaison, and here's why we left. And they gave these horrid stories about watching people die, one after another, going in there and standing in front of the rooms. And so, anyway, that's how I got into it. Then I found out in Bulgaria, because we're supposed to be, in our state, we all read the Watchtower, we all study the Watchtower, we all go door to door. We're all supposed to be on the same page. So when I found out in Bulgaria that they didn't disfellowship you, I said, wait a minute, how come we get this? And then it was like, well, it's a political thing. Well, wait a minute now. Jehovah doesn't have any political thing going on. We either all believe it or we don't. And so, anyway, they got really mad. But yeah, that was the truth. You can look it up.
Wow, that's a first.
That is a first. That's serious, and I think that has to do with our nation. They are more puritanical or something like that. I think that's what it has to do.
All I
with.
can say is, last year, if I did not take blood transfusions, I would be dead. Last year, blood transfusions, blood plasma saved my life last year.
Wow.
One exact year ago.
You've been blessed right there.
So, if I was a witness, I would have been dead.
Well, let me tell you something about what you just said.
And Bulgaria, if I lived in Bulgaria, that wouldn't have been an issue. That's freaking weird.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. That was one of the first hooks. There was a lady. She was like Pixie. She was real sharp. And the lady told me, she said, Dan, if you want to get out, you got to get out the hooks. And I said, what hooks? She says, oh, the things that you believe unequivocally. You've got to dismantle, like God's name is Jehovah. And I said,
how do you dismantle God's name Jehovah? It says in Psalms 83:18. The man may know. She says, well, does Jehovah need to be called by his first name? Are you telling me Jehovah can't, if you say Father, Lord, he don't understand you? The witnesses are the only ones that says he don't understand you. And when do you call your father by his first name? It says, oh, he don't know if you're talking to the devil. If you say, God, I really need your help. I'm starving. My price broke up and you're balling. He doesn't know any better. And only if you call him by Jehovah will you be talking to God and not the devil. So she started to dismantle, but going back to the blood, she said she literally came over with her son, and she says, we're going to act out. I forget where the scripture is, but the one that says, abstain from food sacrificed on open blood and good health to you. She brought over a stack of Bibles on a cart, about 20 of them, and she said, show me in one of these other Bibles where it says good health to you. So we opened up the Bibles, and it says, abstain from food sacrificed to idols and from blood, farewell. Abstain from food sacrificed to idols and farewell. I said, well, what does it mean, good health to you? She says, well, it means farewell. It doesn't say Jehovah said good health to you. So if you open your Bible, no Bible will say good health to you. The witnesses inserted that in. Now, here's what happened, guys. I went to an assembly, and I used to go to the door, and I used to say, let me show you what the Bible says, what Jehovah actually says about blood. And I'd read that scripture, and I said, it says good health to you. I would read that every time I went to the door. I went to the assembly, and they said, stop saying that, because that is not what it means. Now, here's what happened, guys. Here's what pissed me off. They should have taken that out of the Bible when they did this silver sword. When I got the silver sword, I looked up the blood, and it says abstain from food sacrificed idols and from blood and good health to you. They never changed it. But here's the thing, guys. This lady came over with her son and said, we're going to act it out what happened. And so they do this drama in my living room, and the Jews preaching circumcision, and you got to be circumcised. You got to have literal